Hi, guys. Welcome to the show. I'm working on some coffee in the background. So, until I'm done with that, I will just share my Instagram account here and maybe some silly background music. Let's see what we can find. Oh my. This sounds like the intro music by someone else. So catchy, though. Settle in, guys. Sit back. We're almost there. Just giving you a little glimpse of my Instagram account. It's mostly style oriented, but increasingly I'm trying to include as much horological stuff as possible. It's best when the two worlds merge, when they come together. We had our earlier show when we focused on mil-spec watches for Memorial Day. A day when we remember, when we ought to remember that freedom isn't free. A day when we thank those who have served our country. And when we remember those who are forgotten, I should say, who are lost and who have fallen, but not forgotten, who still dwell in our memory. Tonight we are going to focus on some of our favorite complications, some of our favorite functions on a wristwatch. What do we like? Why do we like it? Is it because of the utility of a certain function, or the visual attraction that it brings to the dial? Or just because it's cool? Just because it inspires? Can be anything. That's a cool Navi timer that Miles is wearing there. In older age, he was mostly known for wearing his day date on a presidential bracelet, of course. Though a day date on a leather band with a matching Rolex buckle works quite nicely as well. Brad Pitt and his Submariner. Another jazz great, the father of bebop, Dizzy Gillespie, with his trusty Pepsi GMT with a bakelite bezel, in fact, that he wore for some 30 odd years. That's the thing with Rolex. As Dizzy says, they last forever. This is Aubrey Graham, otherwise known as Drake, before he made it, before the late Virgil Abloh collaborated with Matt Paris to produce that special Nautilus for him. He was wearing an oyster quartz, Datejust oyster quartz, on the integrated version of that Jubilee bracelet. The password is Fidelio. Hey, Jay Gray knows what he's talking about. Miles is the man, BK. Whole Milk says salt peanuts is a banger. This is Sir Arthur C. Clarke with a gold sub while he's receiving in the Netherlands the Marconi International Fellowship in 1982. He wore submariners throughout the years and, in fact, was himself a committed diver who used his submariner in that particular fashion. And another fan of the gold sub with the nipple dial. Tiffany double signed. Sliced alone. I posted some time ago, 2 weeks ago now, this very blurry picture of Clint Eastwood with Langa 1 in yellow gold. And almost instantly I got some hate for it. It's so crazy. People are dying to make anything and everything political. And here's David Beckham wearing his two-tone root beer on a Bund strap or Bund strap. Bund, as you might know, stands there for Bundeswehr, short for Bundeswehr, the German military forces, because I think these types of leather straps first came into their own, first became popular as pilots wore them. So it would have another layer to separate the watch head from their skin in case it got hot under extreme duress. And here's the GOAT, the Michael Jordan of basketball, where he's wearing the first reference of the A. Lange und Söhne Datograph on a matching titanium bracelet. Nice piece. George Varghese, hey man, what's up? Big Meech came with his flock. I'm kind of surprised at myself that we didn't pun on this yet, Big Meech, since you think that my live streams resemble sermons and you come in with your flock. I expect something smart coming from you about this. But the session is about to begin, guys. All right. Hey, guys. What's up? Nice to see you all. We're back. We're back with the late show. We're back with the after show with your host, your favorite pseudo-intellectual, Lord Hellespont V. Welcome to the Untimely Meditations. channel. It's beautiful to see you. I wanted to start talking about today's topic, which is about complications, which is about our favorite functions on wristwatches. But before that, I wanted to speak to something very quickly, something that I've been noticing. This was, of course, Roger Federer in the Mercedes AMG paddock in the Spanish Grand Prix, and he was wearing his new quote unquote Sprite GMT Master 2, the Destro, the LHD GMT. Um, of course, we all know that he's a Rolex ambassador, so he has almost instant access, sometimes even prearranged access to stereotypes. But I kept seeing the new GMT on practically everyone these last few weeks. When Zlatan, for example, Zlatan Ibrahimovic was celebrating uh, the Serie A title, the Scudetto, that AC Milan just won after an 11-year hiatus. He was also wearing, and properly as it were, on his right wrist, the new Rolex GMT as well. And I've seen the celebrations for Real Madrid's win in the Champions League. And Karim Benzema, who is also an avid collector of watches, who, for the most part, at least of late, prefers to wear his Patek sports models, was also wearing one of these new GMTs. So they are quickly and surely becoming the new hype watch. If you get access to these at retail, snap them up. Don't miss it. You won't get to think twice about it. I will continue to post um, photos like these, um, celebrities, athletes, movie stars, uh, famous coaches wearing watches, um, some historical information to go with them as well once every so often. Interesting collectibles that I chance upon again in my deep dives online. One of which turned up this interesting limited edition. I want to just welcome again Jay Gray. If only he had the password Fidelio to the front gate, why did they let him in? Well, they were. I don't want to spoil it for everyone. We're talking about Eyes Wide Shut, of course. But Jay Gray, they were luring him in, basically, since they might need him, if you ask me. Because imagine um, in that scene, everyone was arriving with their, supercar and Rolls Royce and Bentley and whatever else. And Tom Cruise's character was the only one who arrived on a taxi cab. So I think they could already tell that he didn't really belong there. So he had the password for the gate, but not the real password when he was called upon. But I think it was all a ruse to begin with. George Varghese says, I pulled the trigger on an AP code 1159 Burgundy dial. Yeah, I read that you wrote about that in Rada's channel, Watch Society, guys. Check it out. Great guy. Very informative videos. Quite knowledgeable and opinionated and passionate person. Great channel. Great collection. Um, So yes, I saw that you were talking about the code 1159. George, you know how much I love you. You know how much I love your collection. But code 1159, I just can't get on board with it. I know it will be a great investment for you. I think you snapped it up at the right price. Um, Certainly a great deal, if not necessarily a steal. And I'm sure it will continue gaining in value since you have picked it up at 23. And you have such a diverse and numerous collection, that hey, you can afford to take these kinds of risks. In my case, I can't afford to get a watch that I detest just because it's an investment. I love these watches. I wanna wear something that I actually like, and I truly don't like the code 1159, and the fact that um, it feels just like a way, just like a cheap ploy to get people like us into the boutique and string us along, you know, with the hope that we can one day get the actual Audemars Piguet that we all want at retail. It just seems very unpleasant. I think that's a much dirtier game that actually than any Rolex AD game that I have seen. So it leaves a bad taste for me. Even if I like the design, I think um, I think I would most certainly still not buy it. But at that price, you have the opportunity for an investment at the very least. Hey, if you actually like the watch, even better. Enjoy it, wear it in good health. Wonderful purchase. MLMJ, hey man, welcome back to the channel. Eric L, welcome to the channel, man. It's always nice to see you. Jay Gray, and he is wearing it on his left hand. Yes, Federer was wearing the so-called destro on his left hand, whereas Ibrahimovic was wearing um, it on his right. I think when I saw Benzema, if my memory serves, he was wearing it on his left as well. Um, Balser, hey man, welcome back. Timber Tramp says, "Shut it, drive them down." Uh, Sorry, I think I missed the reference there. Which one? They wanted a witness. Perhaps that could be one thing, but they also knew that he was a physician and he could save their backside if they got in the trouble. Mark the Shark, I missed you, man. Welcome back. It's been a while since I last saw you here. Bosser says, "Do you believe the rumors that Illuminati Bohemian Grove types had the director whacked for making that movie?" I think that's a good marketing ploy, Bosser. I think it's a nice way to drive interest into the movie. I don't believe them, but I think again it's a nice ruse. Jay Gray says, "Yes, Buster. It's the only film he didn't have the final edit off." Buster. George Fargay says, "No issues. Today's dogs, and it's a real dog turn into tomorrow's beauty queens." Not for me, but I know exactly that logic, right? You know, I have two dogs myself. The root beer that everyone teased me about when I had it and when I wore it. And the two-tone watches are making an absolute comeback, at least for Rolex in the last few years. And my Explorer 2 Polar. As you know, the Polar is now trending for significantly more than the Black Dial Explorer 2, even though it was always, well, up until a few years ago, it was the one that was worth much less. Night Diver says, "How you holding up? Why? Was there something wrong with me? I'm all good, man. doing just fine. Jay Gray says he was going to give away too much of the plot. Hmm. I think we're still talking about Kubrick. Bowser says, I'm surprised they released the movie at all. The director's cut must have been damning possible. Um, Honestly, I think for the most part, this is, I feel they take it in their stride, man. I think a lot of times this sort of exposure gives them a certain pleasure. Not that they want what they're doing to be in the public eye um, and seen in broad daylight. But these sorts of secretive, esoteric communities actually get a certain pleasure from being talked in a certain way in the public. Um, I think the same thing is true of Scientology. Um, I, it's kind of how Foucault explains the um, Victorian era in his history of sexuality, right, where there is a certain taboo around the very topic of sexuality, where you are not supposed to talk about it, and the fact that you are not allowed to talk about it, that any conversation, any explicit conversation on sexuality is frowned upon, actually draws attention to it, actually incites discourse about it. So ultimately, this is how a lot of secret societies thrive as well, that they are secretive because they do want to be talked about in a certain way. They don't want you to know exactly what they are doing, but they want the interest. That's what keeps things going. That's what makes the world turn. Jay Gray says, I remember vividly the year I wore a watch on my right fist. Trying times. I hope you turned out all right, Jay Gray. Thomas Broadbent, always on topic, always, always topical. My favorite complication is the one that exists between people and their perception of watches. Man, Thomas, I'm just a pseudo intellectual. You can't get this profound on me. Let's read that again. My favorite complication is the one that exists between people and their perception of watches, the perceived value, and then the interrelationships with other watch aficionados. That's an amazing, amazing soul reading there, Thomas. So Thomas basically says that all watch fanatics, all of us degenerates, have a complicated relationship with our watches, with the whole endeavor of collecting wristwatches. And maybe that is also reflected in the relationships we form in this community. Bowser says, I think AP had good intentions with the code 1159, but the execution was pretty to me. Hey, Bowser, you're just as right as I am, quite honestly, because I have no right actually to claim to read their mind and their intentions. I'm just speculating, right? So I'm not. It's not right of me to attribute bad faith and bad intentions to AP, but I wouldn't attribute good intentions to them either, because after all, they're a company. They're in the business of selling watches, marketing them a certain way, so they hype them up, um, adopting shady strategies of scarcity marketing and celebrity endorsements to just have this chain reaction of of overhyped, overpriced watches. And to be fair, again, I know a lot of people love their entire lineup, including all these. Um, what do they call it exactly? The Richard Mille looking type Royal Oaks they have. What is it called? Royal Oak Project or whatever it is. Um, I don't know, man. Um, yeah, those Richard Mille looking pieces that they make, whatever they're called, in like bloated up Royal Oak cases with fancy, bright colored rubber bands, whatever it is. I guess they realized that, hey, we make the movements for Richard Mille already, so why not use it ourselves as well? Yeah, as you know, they have a huge, well, not huge, um, but a very boutique movement maker called Renaud et Papy, um, that I think by now goes by APRP. Um, that serves basically as a laboratory and as a very interesting boutique movement maker for Richard Mille and Audemars Piguet, among others, and that has served as the training ground for many innovative horologists and watchmakers of recent time as well. We can delve into that in another episode. Whole Night Diver says, just saying hello. I haven't been on for a bit, so I've caught a show lately. Hey, man, so nice to see you back. Jay Gray says they have to reveal a certain amount for the sake of conscience. I don't know. Whole Milk says, oh man, we're talking Foucault. Let me know when the Derrida chat is coming. Man, I don't think I'll be qualified for that. Jay Gray says that was the first time I typed LOL in a decade. Interesting. Jay Gray says my favorite complication is the one that exists between people. It is complicated. Bosser says, how do we even know watches really exist? Well, they don't exist in authorized dealers anymore. So that is an interesting complication, isn't it? Um, how do we know if they actually exist if you can't even buy them? Jay Gray says, bravo. I can hit myself in the head with a watch. The question is, does it keep good time? And Balser reminds me that the series is called AP Concepts. That's right. Thomas Broadbent says, George, there's something special about burgundy dial, strap, even a fine garment. Nice, solid. It is understated. Let's bring it up. Code 1159, burgundy dial. Man, all right. Let's see. They haven't hidden it in their page because you don't want the average punter to see your watches, right? So let's make sure that they're even difficult to find on the page. Let's see. We're just talking about the three-hander, right, George? I'm guessing this is it. White gold with that um, canvas strap. A rubber coated strap matches the dial's profound color. I do agree with that. Yeah, I mean, look, it's really the dial is just about the only interesting thing to me about the watch. Like I just can't suffer it, man. I'm so sorry. Um, but the dial and the strap, I think, would look great. But here's a watch that I would actually prefer without the complication whatsoever. Right? I feel like this could be nicer because the dial itself is so beautiful in that fumé configuration that gradiates into black from a relatively bright cherry red in the middle. I would rather have that uninterrupted, except for the quarters, of course, the 12369. And I think actually it looks great in white gold. Um, I quite enjoy it. White gold against burgundy. I think white metal in general, I'm more with it. Once every so often I'm thinking of getting a precious metal watch, but I think it will have to be white gold if I do. Otherwise, I might just go for titanium because I want something different. Having five steel watches and one two tone, I do want something different, but I might go for titanium rather than something precious metal. Here's George's new watch. Wear it in good health or keep it for a rainy day, whichever way you go, George. I think that was a good deal to snap up as a full set at 23K. And I know, people keep saying, well, you haven't even seen it in person. Why do you bash it? I'm really not bashing it. I'm just not feeling it. And there have been watches in the past that I came to like over time. It has very little to do with the hype around them. Um, but yeah, for now, whatever I have seen from this watch, I just can't. Whole milk. My favorite complication is the Paul Gerber Model 41. Let's see that. I'm just waiting until someone brings up uh, these erotic complications in older, you know, haute horlogerie pieces. I'm surprised that no one has so far. All right, this is stainless steel 42 millimeter Paul Gerber or Paul Gerber Model 41, self-winding with triple synchronized, and they're designed like bells, 18 karat gold rotors. This model has Paul's in-house caliber 41 with twin barrels, features a sapphire crystal front and back and a black matte dial, standard sweep seconds hand or with an additional complication of a jumping seconds hand. The model with a jumping seconds hand can also be a standard sweep seconds at the push of a button. Nice. Nice. So it does have an optional complication of a jumping seconds hand, which can be with the push of this button converted into sweeping center seconds at will. It's a very cool watch. I like how simplistic it is. Looks quite flawless to me. I think again I could do without the date there, but I like the muted, almost dark aesthetic of the watch. From the finish of the case to the dial itself, very minimalistic and quite intriguing, to be honest. I like it. Yeah, here's that button that can convert the seconds hand from jumping to sweeping. Very interesting. Thomas Broadbent came up with the best line ever in the chat. I agree. I just copied and pasted his comment in order to highlight it. Shout out Thomas Broadbent. Thomas Broadbent is a very committed contributor to this channel and also very thoughtful always in his interventions. He's always on topic. Great subscriber. DP says, wow, nice watch. Richard Dawkins, a gray suede would be a great addition. I think gray suede strap for something like this could make it a little lighter, perhaps. It's a very severe watch, um, as it is. So can lighten things up a little bit. It can lighten up the mood. A blind watchmaker would be a unique specimen. Tend to find the visually impaired tuning pianos. Uh, we are still talking here about the earlier AP code 1159. Beautiful dial. Y2K is here, upvoted. Hey man, thank you so much. Jacob and Co. Caligula. We will jump onto that. Thomas Broadbent says, I would say Vacheron Constantin, the perpetual twin barrel that has the 65-day vibration selection button. Hmm. Jay Gray says, all is well, sir, warming up nicely. Thomas was recommending the gray suede actually on the AP. Well, Thomas, apparently you're also quite the fashionista. That's an interesting suggestion. Could work, most certainly. It's like nice pair of old bucks, old white bucks that have somehow taken on a grayish hue, perhaps, and you change the laces into something, red or burgundy. I think those are two colors that can go very nicely together. Very cool. The Gerber or Gerber, I guess, Gerber, um, is also very cool. And I think that would also go well with a gray suede strap or gray Alcantara strap, something a little nappy on the surface rather than this smooth. Because again, the watch is very severe already. And I love the lugs on this watch as well. Yeah. Very modernistic. Y2K, hey man. It's great to see you again. Jay Gray says, all is well, warming up nicely. Yes, our friends in Canada must be appreciating this turning of the seasons. Let's see, Vacheron Constant. Twin. Twin beat. Is that it? Hmm, maybe it's discontinued. Let's see if the Hodinke piece is still. Ooh. So it has a standby 65-day power reserve. And I'm guessing it gains that by reducing the number of oscillations per minute since it has this indicator on the dial. I'm only making an assumption. By the way, guys, I don't have the exact link at hand right now, but Bill Sanders from Watch Art Sci has actually a beautiful little video about um, lower beating calibers and why they are at times preferred for high horology watches. And to sum it up very quickly, the functional reason is to find the best balance between accuracy and um, trusty power reserve, because certain kinds of high beat calibers can present a shortcut for a more accurate movement. But with the necessary modifications and compromises, you can build a very high frequent, a very highly accurate movement at a low beating caliber as well. And a lot of times, high horology brands prefer the aesthetics of a lower beat caliber because it just looks better through the sapphire caseback. Thomas Broadbent says, Clark, desert boots. I mean, I think you mean desert boots are time travel and comfortable now. That's supposed to be the heritage of desert boots, by the way, which are sometimes also called chakas. Apparently, they were first made for British troops deployed in Egypt by an Egyptian cobbler who designed something from them for them that would be appropriate for walking in sand, right? And as you know, their laces are fastened right at your ankles to seal that to achieve that tight closure. So apparently, keeping the sand out. Although I'm sure there are different origin stories, and some also relate to the game of polo, as you can hear in the phrase chaka, of course. I'm in love with this. Thomas Broadbent says, spectacular. Indeed, it looks great. Um, Thomas Broadbent says, is it a dessert boot because it has a crepe sole? Thomas says, desert. Whole Milk says, I was just making a dumb joke. I got a laugh out of it. And it's mostly because, again, Thomas is extremely well educated and appropriate. So when he makes a very small mistake, it's almost immediately noticeable um, because he usually doesn't. But this is quite ingenious indeed. 65 days, and it's not all that thick either. Let me read a little bit what with a most intriguing and unusual, not hours, days, over 2 months of running time. Yes. You would expect it to be a behemoth. The I will show you the Lange 31 in a little bit. That is quite a hefty watch, but this is not. Apparently, this is simple physics. Hodinkee explains, beyond a certain point, an escapement running at a certain frequency, even a leisurely 2.5 hertz, 18,000 beats per hour balance will require a larger mainspring in order to have a larger power reserve, no matter what else you do to optimize the gear train. By the way, that was the aesthetics that I was talking about, right? Some high horology brands prefer the lower beating, lower frequency movements, say at a 2.5 or 3 hertz, because a larger mainspring and lower beat uh, creates this interesting visual aesthetics of oscillation when you look at it through the exhibition case back. The only other option, if you want a longer running time, is to have a slower frequency oscillator. But of course, that brings in problems of accuracy, right? So ultimately, what they did was to come up with a dual oscillator system. Um, Having two different frequency oscillators in a single watch, both of which keep time correctly and between which the user can switch on demand. This is how they overcame that particular problem. Amazing. Watch Nicholas. We get 2 thumbs up from Watch Nicholas. Thank you, Watch Nicholas, my man. As always, doing great work on his channel. Thanks. It was funny. I make many mistakes. Jay Gray says, I love desert boots. Return to that. Have not had a pair in more than 30 years. They're my favorites. Practical and timelessly stylish. They're very easy to put on too, because they just have short laces, just if you just leave them unlaced, you can put them on even easier and wear them that way too, which makes them even more casual. Thomas Broadbent says this Vacheron Constantin captures the legacy and the new. Keep it quiet, I aspire. Eric L. That's amazing tech, Thomas Broadbent. It's quiet as kept. Let's move on to a similar complication, which is the Lange 31. It's a mechanical wristwatch with a power reserve of, you guessed it, 31 days. The layout is pretty similar to the automatic, uh, to the Langematic, the automatic version of Lange 1. You have, of course, the characteristic oversized date display, the German writing of Monatswerk, uh, works for a month, basically. Let's translate it like that, taking some poetic license. Seconds on the subdial, and the 31-day power reserve display. And of course, those beautiful, nicely polished alpha hands that jump out of every single Erlanger und Söhne dial. This is, as you can see, truly a gargantuan watch. People complain sometimes about certain watches being a hockey puck on the wrist, but this is a true hockey puck, 18 karat white gold, a whole slab of 16 millimeters in thickness and 46 in diameter. And if we take a look at this little film, you'll see how it's charged up as well, if I'm not mistaken. I hope they do show it in this video, even though it's always nice to look simply and contemplate Lange one movement. You see that piece there, um, this part. There's actually a little um, piece that goes in there, a little tool that goes in there that allows you to literally crank the movement. That's how you charge it up. Ah, there you go. Fascinating stuff. Once a month, and you're all good. Jay Gray says, tons of content on the horizon, huh, Nicholas? Always, always. The no rest. The guy with the biggest hustle and biggest balls in the watch YouTube. Watch Nicholas. It looked like the Partridge Family going for a bike ride. Thomas Broadbent says, best worn without socks. Hmm. I think I will have to kindly disagree with that. Um, for me, the only shoes I think that can be worn without socks are really loafers. Anything else, mm, just personal preference, man. Um, I think it's not good for the socks. It's not good for your feet. But be my guest. Thomas Broadbent says the Lange, A. Lange und Söhne is class. We keep that key on the 70s chain. Eric L says the Lange ratchet wrench must be 4K by itself. Hey guys, we're just past our first hour. I will send the link, but it's always pinned right there, as you know. Please feel free to jump on the panel. Sometimes I hear from people that they hesitate because they don't have anything in particular to say. Even then, it's fine, but do realize that we have these topics as a heading. We don't always have to talk about them. We don't have to spend the entire 3 hours just talking about one subject. So if you want to come help me out or come and redirect the conversation in any way you desire, just jump on the panel. That's how you take charge of things. This is your home. This is your channel. And I want you to take part in any way you wish and desire. So if you have been enjoying the show, hit the like button, upvote the stream. It helps a great deal. It gives me more exposure. Spread the word, share the link on other platforms. Help me get that much closer to 1,000 subs. We're not too far away, but it is taking time, and it's quite all right. We are here, and we are willing to put in the work. That being said, if you want to support me, if you want to encourage me, if you want to help me get more equipment for the channel and create more exclusive and original content, film outside, and not only in the usual boutiques, etc., but in more original locations where I can bring you horological content, let's say from a workshop where people are making straps, from um, a watchmaker who specializes in engine turn decorations on the dials, on the art of guilloche. All of these things are possible with your help and with your contributions. And for that, of course, you have my PayPal, which is at lordtelesponv@gmail.com, lordtelesponv@gmail.com. I also have a Cash App at $LHVVV, $LHVVV. Now, when it comes to configurations, and this is watch that Hiruka, our friend Swiss, has shared with us just in the previous stream when we were talking about mil spec watches. This watch is not mil spec, not to make a mistake about it, but he was showing us a Japanese military issued watch that was sold by Philips in Geneva in 2018. And here was root beer GMT, actually, a 6542, made as a left-hander, sold in that same auction. If I'm not mistaken, it is actually from 1959. And of course, is a 6542 slash 8. You can see those sharp Dauphine hands, the small GMT hand, the aluminum insert, of course, for the bezel, um, which had already by the end of that production reference had replaced the original bakelite bezel insert. You can see that applied coronet at 12 o'clock. And you can see how the crown is actually on the left. This is, of course, a pre-crown guard at any rate. And you know, in the modern iteration of these left-hand drive watches, Rolex decided for the GMT to move the date as well to 9 o'clock, which was pure inertia. Of course, they weren't gonna design an entire movement from scratch, so they just flipped it, which necessitated the shifting of that date complication from 3 o'clock to 9 as well. This is a quite gorgeous watch. I managed at the same time to find the GMT Master root beer with a bakelite. Um, with a bakelite bezel. Let's see if I can pull that up again. There we are. There we are. And that was a fantastic example as well. And of course, there were two reasons as to why Rolex transitioned from these bakelite bezel inserts to aluminum. One was the notion that they cracked very easily, as you can already observe from this example. And you see how everything else, except for hairline scratches, is pretty pristine. But also because they were understood to be a radiation hazard, of course. This entire thing was loomed with radium in the same way that the nipple dial and the alpha hands here were filled with radium as well. Quite gorgeous. Another 6542. A great, great piece. Hi, Jay Gray.
Hello. Um, hello, LVH. That
Or
Submariner.
LHV.
That was a
Or
Submariner thing.
VHL. VHS. Just call me.
Beta.
That's okay. I have been called worse. I'm confident in my masculinity. I don't need to be called an alpha.
So was that a very early precious gold or precious metal Submariner? That
GMT Master. Yes, an early example. Um, the fact that it is a bakelite insert locates it, I think, pre 1957. I want to say. Let me double check that. Let Bobby Google tell me. And um, when they had,
any
yeah,
information on how
59.
many they might have produced?
I don't know exactly, but it was 1959 when they, even before they switched from 6542 to 1675. By now, by then, they had been releasing the later models with aluminum bezels. And whenever they were turned into service, they were also changing out bakelite inserts to aluminum ones. So without getting too philosophical, Jay Gray, what's your favorite or most useful complication on a watch? Or do you just prefer three-handers?
Well, I have very high standards. I have very, very, very high standards. And for myself, I need a hybrid watch. To, uh, First and foremost, it must be inexpensive. Second, it must take as little input from me as possible and as much as necessary. So I have an automatic Seiko 5 with a day-date complication and a display back, and it loses 5 minutes a week, so it's not really automatic. I have to adjust it every week. So I have a hybrid watch. Take that, everybody.
All right. So Seiko 5.
Seiko
I
5.
I love I love Seikos. Day date is almost always there in Seikos, and the thing that I love about mine in particular is well, I mean that's the Seiko day date, isn't it? It's always bilingual, no?
Yes,
Um,
yes.
in
Well,
in the
I don't know if it's always bilingual, but mine is.
Yeah, same thing with me. Both my SKXs, they must be back in the box. Both my SKXs and my King Turtle, they're bilingual. The SKXs are English and Arabic, and in the case of the King Turtle, it's English and Spanish. So I love it. I love it both. Um,
And
Jake,
it's
yeah,
spot on that it's slow 5 minutes a week because it is a Seiko 5.
the what? Can you remind me what the five in that um, moniker referred to? Because I think they had a specific reference when they named that watch Seiko 5.
To be honest, I have no idea. I had no idea what a Seiko 5 was before 3.5 years ago.
Ah, okay.
But I needed a watch. I went on Amazon and I wanted an auto. I saw the Seiko 5. It's an automatic, day date, clear case back
Hmm.
for $70 Canadian to my door. So
Well, actually, it does have a very functional meaning because 5 refers to actually the five basic things that that series of Seiko watches offer, which is an automatic self-winding movement, a durable case, the crown at 4 o'clock, that's 3, the day date display, that's 4, water resistance, that's 5. So waterproof, durable case, the recessed crown at 4 o'clock, the day date function, and a self-winding caliber, Seiko 5.
I have never tested its water resistance.
Oh, that's what I have my Seikos for. I'm always always whenever I'm in, poolside or when I'm on the beach, that's the watch I wear.
Right. It is very disposable. It has a nice loom.
Not only, I mean, I don't consider them disposable. It's been in the case of my SKXs, I think they're almost a decade old now, both of them. And it's just I can be careless with them. It doesn't mean that I will necessarily um, bang them about. They're still pretty well kept, but I don't have to think twice before I jump into the water, right?
Right,
I
but
just
that's
don't have to.
that's you're not talking the same thing as the Seiko 5 that's on my wrist.
Hmm. Well, Sego 5, I think, has maybe a little less water resistance, if I'm not mistaken,
I don't
because,
dare take it into the shower.
well, it's one of the 5 features, right? It has to have some sort of water resistance, but I think
Yes,
it was reduced from SKX. SKX has 200 meters.
that's a
Um,
dive watch. This is a field
yeah,
watch.
yes, that's true. But still, I think it has 100 meters at least, which means that you can probably take it into the shower if it's not too hot of a shower. Uh, but yeah, I have to say that I was one of those people who was a little disappointed when SKX series was discontinued. Not because I was planning to get a third or fourth one, but simply because I always thought that was
There was
more
another one around the bend.
not even I just thought that was a great entry level watch for any enthusiast. Um, I feel like everyone should have a place for a Seiko in their collection, um, and turns out they do. And look, I mean, it's here's the thing: you can. I've had this many times. You sometimes see a nice watch in the wild, and if you notice it and if you say something nice about it, people who know who to take a compliment, and they are a species that is going extinct by the minute, are nice about it. But even then, a lot of people don't have much to say because they just think it's a nice watch. Maybe they have seen it somewhere. Maybe they have bought into the hype, but there's not much of anything watch related that you can discuss. When you see someone wearing an SKX, for example, or a Seiko 5, it's usually the kind of person who knows a thing or two about watches, right? And who can talk with you possibly hours on end about their favorites, their aspirations, their Grail watch, so on and so forth. So it's always a great way to see, who cares about watches, whatever their budget is. That if someone is wearing, a Seiko Turtle or Captain Willard or SKX, that person has thought about that decision, thought about that purchase in some way.
Thank you.
So a key replacement for a Honda is a mortgage payment. That you have a good mortgage, I have to say, Jay Gray.
Yes, the mortgage is good. Yes.
And Whole Milk says, I'm a sucker for retrogrades. Whole Milk, give us a particular example, because retrograde means a bunch of different things. It can be different functions. It's basically just the movement of that hand that indicates retrograde. So if you have a particular model that you want to share with us, please do. Jake Brooks says, "What if mortgage payment is the cost of the Honda?" That, that's why I still, yeah, that's why I still rent.
Jake Brooks probably isn't wearing a Seiko 5.
No, Jake Brooks actually wears a Daytona with on Oyster Flex with diamonds on the dial. That's his Seiko 5.
Kudos. Kudos.
Thomas Broadband says, a story to share. My neighbor, Dr. Sam, was in the Navy in World War II, South Pacific. It is Memorial Day, so very topical story. He told me he was the luckiest guy in the Navy. 2 kamikaze attacked. The gunner took out one. The second skipped off the deck. God bless, man. Aussie Expat says 538 US dollars for a key for a Toyota.
Mortgage payment.
Again, I envy you. I wish. Yeah, I think you can't. Wow. Yeah. Forget about Los Angeles, man. I need to get the hell out of here. That's what it is. I need to get the hell out of here. But yeah, this is the new Seiko 5 lineup, by the way. They have a few different lines. Some of the whole streetwear angle is not something that I'm terribly into, but this is
No,
their
and
sports.
I wouldn't trust a bracelet.
This is the sports range, more or less. There are a few interesting looking watches, some that resemble the previous generation.
So back to the complication question.
Yes, please.
A rotating bezel.
Yes.
Any rotating bezel, whether it's a GMT or a dive watch, whether it's unidirectional or bidirectional.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to have a watch with a rotating bezel.
That's good. Yeah, I think I like it. It's good if you're fidgety like me. You have something to play around, first of all. But two, of course, they are functions, right? It can be a timing bezel, like it is on many watches that have a certain diving pedigree. Again, this is kind of lost on this descendant of the SKX because it doesn't even have the necessary water resistance, at least according to modern specifications. But that being said, you can still time when you are making eggs. You can still use the timer when you're doing laundry, when you're putting in the hours in the laundromat. You can,
Which is why I want a rotating bezel. Muffins
right.
in the oven.
That
Muffins or
too.
biscuits. Yeah.
That too. If you are actually spending time on the Archie Luxury live stream, you can time how long Marcelo is muted for. Um, the,
or
there,
or limit the
there-
time that you waste in your life.
it's a highly functional uh, watch. You know, to have a diver with a rotating bezel, and like you said, of course, with the help of a rotating bezel on a travel time function watch on a GMT Master, pardon me, depending on what generation it is, you can, in fact, tell the time in a second or even a third time zone, as you guys know, on a GMT Master. Two, since you have um, GMT hand as a jumping hour hand that you can adjust independently, you can use that to to tell the time in a second time zone, and then you can basically use the bezel to yet um, know what time it is in a third time zone
You
for
can
the
track the
previous
roast beef,
generation.
Yorkshire pudding.
Say it again.
You can track the roast beef and the Yorkshire pudding.
That's another good way to put it. Right, as you might know, in the previous generation of GMT masters, the this GMT hand could not be uncoupled from the hours hand, could not move independently. So it was not jumping. Um, so in that case, you were dependent on the bidirectional rotating bezel to be able to tell time in a secondary time zone by pointing it to the time zone hand, to the um, fourth hand, basically. Whole Milk came up with his favorite retrograde watch with his Gérard Jantin solo by retrograde jump hour.
Hi, I'm
Oh, all right. Let's just work with the still right here. This is has the minutes on the retrograde, so you can it moves from 0 to 60, then jumps back, and the hour jumps instantly too, I'm assuming. I don't know if Tim Masso shows how it jumps in this particular video. But yeah, I appreciate this. It's a watch that lets its freak flag fly. Um, of course, some of us are less patient than you are, whole milk, so they like maybe like seconds based retrogrades or something, because for this you have to wait for an entire hour for the display of that retrograde artistry. But hey, it's still cool. Thomas Broadbent says flyback feel and response is so tactile, made more pleasurable with a warm acrylic crystal. Absolutely. We were just talking about earlier uh, older Breguet Type 20 chronographs, and even those that had um, a two register displays, like the 2019 only watch Breguet Type 20 Revival. Um, yeah, Type 20 is one of my favorite watches of all time. And certainly in this two register configuration, it's to me, it's even more desirable. But of course, they don't make them like this anymore. In fact, last time I went to the Breguet boutique, they didn't have any Type 20s, and they were not even sure if they were coming back at all. They only had Type 21 and Type 22, and mostly in precious metal. I think it's again a Swatch Group game that they are unfortunately playing, and this is the Big Eye version, the vintage original of that. Um, Two sub-dial configuration with a nice onion crown. This is the modern execution. Beautiful. Yeah, flyback chronograph really feels good. I mean, just any, any well-built column wheel, vertical clutch, at least it feels good. It feels good to know that it doesn't stutter, it doesn't jump when you start and stop. It feels good. And a flyback itself, I think, uh, looks good to watch it as well, to just reset it as it is still performing. Um, Aussie Expat says, I personally prefer GMT Master because the date is quick set. Yes, sir. I will actually show you since I'm wearing my root beer today on a nice little leather strap. Let me pull the crown out. As you can see, let's see. Oh. Can you see? You can quickly shuffle through the dates here. The Cyclops isn't making it easier, but you can see how it switches. Yeah, with the GMT Master 2, of course, you have to use the jumping hand itself to cycle through the dates, and it can take a while if you haven't worn it for a while. Whole Milk says that looks like it's only one retrograde. There's another version with a retrograde date. Amazing. So that Gérard Jantin watch actually exists with both the dates and the minutes in retrograde. Amazing. Thomas Broadband says these retrogrades are great. What's the market price on the Jantin? I like the bracelet as well. Let's check it out. Maybe we should look at Chrono 24. Gerard Jantin. So, Buy Retro. Amazing. It's called Buy Retro. So it has two, not one, but two retrogrades. Let's see if they have one with the bracelet because that's what you wanted. There we go. This is it. This is it, Thomas. It has that rice grain vintage style bracelet. All in stainless steel. Solo by retro or bi retro. And it has the date retrograde right here. It has the minute retrograde right here and the hour display right here in red. It actually has a very fascinating sporty look. I don't know if it's the carbon fiber detail or the notion that this looks like it belongs inside your car more than anything. It's a very very cool little watch. I like it. I like it, and you can't complain about the beautiful complication there, the double retrograde either. Whole Milk says Thomas all over the place, but must look around 6K to 10K on the chrono. Yeah, that particular example was about 7K, but the prices uh, go back and forth. It's solo by retro. Um, Thomas Broadband says, love the date shutter, feel, and sound. Yeah, that's one of the pleasant things about the QuickSet date, by the way. Beyond its facility, it has a nice little click. Aussie Expat says, I hate setting up the 2, GMT Master 2, if you want the 24 hand to track the second time zone. And then the date is especially complicated. Yeah, it's true. You have to memorize where you started using the jumping hour hand. Thomas Broadband says, whole milk, that is good value. Indy 500 was terrific. Yeah, the Tag Heuer invited all these watch journalists to Indy 500, and they were introducing the new Monaco Dark Lord. Did you guys see that watch? Are you a fan of the Tag Heuer Monaco, Jay Gray?
No, not really.
No,
No,
me
too
neither.
broad.
Me neither. I think it's too. I like rectangular watches, but like you said, this one is like a square, much broader.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
I met a fellow yesterday, and he had a gold colored watch and a leather strap, and it was a rectangular shape, but it had the flourish that you might see in a Vacheron in the corners. It wasn't so rectangular, but it was. I wanted to have a closer look, but I didn't. I did not ask him to have a closer look. Perhaps another time.
well, you never know. Sometimes these days people are so fearful of others swiping their watches that sometimes they get nervous when you ask
No,
them watch
there was
questions.
no reason for this man to be nervous. I was in his abode. I was in his workshop,
Okay.
but it was the first time I had met him. So, but it was a very distinct case shape and much prettier than this tag. Although it was not a chronograph.
Mm. So, by the way, Aussie Expat is asking um, dumb question. I don't think it's a dumb question, but a modern Rolex date complication. Can I go backwards through the dates? Okay, I would like to ask this question to a watchmaker because I know it's possible. I know that you can. Whether it's okay for the movement for you to cycle back in dates by going backwards counterclockwise, that is a question I would like to direct to a competent watchmaker than a fool like me who's ready to try anything and everything at least once. Um, but this is the new Dark Lord, by the way. It's inspired by a very limited production watch in Hoya's past. Um, one of the first black watches in its time. This time it preserves that all black aesthetic with red accents for the center seconds hand, continuous seconds hand, and the hour hand. Um, sorry, the hour and minute counter and the center seconds hand, and then it has the rose gold or pink gold for the hands and the indices. Um, and it has this grainy outer um, decoration on the dial too that perhaps adds to the layers of visual interest.
Yeah, once you zoom in, it's a sharper looking piece.
Yeah, I think so. Honestly, again, like you said, Jay Gray, I'm not too big of a fan of the shape to begin with. Um, and a lot of times Monaco comes in those colorful um, configurations that remind you of the livery that Steve McQueen himself wore, of course. So that being said, it becomes a little too much. I kind of like the look of this one better than the standard Monaco, but again, I'm still not a huge fan. You can see the rotor itself is the same rose gold accent. I'm not sure if it is actually rose gold. I will double check now. Uh, nice little loom going on there. Can't complain. So this is retailing for um let's see. Yes, this is retailing for 8200. It's not a limited or special edition. It will be available. It has the HO2 automatic caliber. Um, and apparently the hands and indices, and I'm assuming also the rotor is rose gold plated. Um, I do really like the all black aesthetic of this watch. Um, I think it gives a different kind of flavor, which I don't mind. Again, I'm not a huge fan, but this could be an interesting option there. Are you interested in chronographs at all, Jay Gray?
No, I've never desired a chronograph. Just want a
Mm,
rotating bezel.
yeah, I used to be. I'm not gonna say anti, but I used to think that the dials are chronograph dials are generally too busy. But more and more, I feel like I need a chronograph. I need one chronograph in my collection. Maybe something a little more classical with two registers. Maybe something in the Flieger configuration, which I used to hate, but now come to appreciate that, the 1296 layout um, rather than the 369.
I just don't understand how you use one. You see the Speedmaster and Daytona, and they have all these numbers around the bezel. How do you actually? What?
Do you use it? I
No,
think most people don't use it. It's just the
no.
aesthetics of it. I think that most people
Right,
appreciate, quite frankly.
right.
And I don't blame them. I used to, I used to not seek it out. I used to not really like it, but these days I feel like I need one uh, in the
Well,
collection just for
don't get me
something
wrong.
different.
I would love to have one, but I don't need to have one.
Absolutely. I mean, when it comes down to it, we don't need any of these watches to kind of
Straight up.
harp on the to kind of harp on what Thomas said earlier. I think the wristwatch itself is a complication, right? It's
Yes.
um, it's unnecessary. You don't need one in your life. It can make things unnecessarily complicated. Um, hey, Aussie expat says diving chrono of chronographs. Interesting. I think it's the ah. Again, I used to feel very strongly about this. I used to think it's a contradiction in terms. I used to think it's unnecessary, but ultimately, it's just as long as it's well executed and as long as it doesn't really compromise the water resistance and the depth rating of the watch, why not? I don't have a problem with it. It's not necessarily something I go for, but why not? What's your favorite diving chrono, Aussie expat? Name it so we can pull up the watch. Messaging Matters says favorite complication. Again, talking about complicated relationships. I can't decide between a divorce, a kid, or a drug habit. Why not all of them? Why not all of them? Get the divorce, get full custody of your kid, and focus on coffee as your exclusive drug.
Here, here.
A man can indeed have it all. Messaging Matters. Um, oh, and GMT is nice too. Thank you for being here. Messaging Matters. You're welcome back to the channel, and feel free to jump on. Um, Thomas Broadband says we have eaten from the Movado Astronic fruit tree before. Yes, one of my favorite watches indeed. The forgotten integrated bracelet watch of the 70s. I did an entire video about this, and of course, Thomas has one in his collection. It's a beautiful watch. Let me pull it up. Let's see if it is with the nice bracelet. I'm not quite sure if it is. Well, at least people will have a visual aid. So let me give that to you. This is the Movado Astronic, and I'll also share a link to the video that I did about the Movado Astronic. It's relatively short. And I think could be interesting to some in the chat. I think it's a pretty cool watch, especially if you're interested in the vintage aesthetics. If you love the Zenith or Zenith El Primero as a movement, hey, again, it's one of the first automatic chronograph movements ever. A high beat, beautiful movement here, offered to you in its most complicated fashion, with the addition of triple date and a moon phase. Quite a beautiful and intriguing watch that presents still a certain kind of value proposition in the secondary market. Movado Astronic HS 360. And thanks for reminding us of that, Thomas, and thanks for reminding everyone that I've been putting in the work. Aussie Expat says, no, I was joking. I only raise an eyebrow every time I see the diving chrono. I always raise an eyebrow because I have one, Aussie Expat. But yeah, I know what you mean. Thomas Broadband says the lobster bracelet. Yeah, the lobster bracelet, I think, is even a better look. Full on John, welcome back. Hands down, a dive bezel for me. elapsed time when warming up my car. Beautiful. Yes. Jay Gray must need that as well, being in the great white north.
I have remote start.
Countdown time when cooking and doubles as a dual time bezel as long as it is within 11 hours. And Aussie Expat says diving chrono is only slightly less confusing than those fashion divers where the bezel is fixed. God, yeah, fashion watches are not really too exciting to me. Um, yeah, it seems that the GMT is getting. Hey, I mean, we are Rolex people. I guess that's what it boils down to. We love our diver bezels, although of course, Submariner is only subjectively the best, and certainly not historically the first dive watch. But it's understandable that a lot of us like the timing bezel, and the GMT Master is the signature complication. Really, it is one of the early travel time watches. Sorry, Jay Gray, go ahead.
Oh, I've been wondering the last few days, or maybe even longer, what is the even the subconscious effects of the fact that Rolex is a foundation.
Mm,
There are no shareholders.
right. Well, I think here's the thing. People usually bring it up um, almost in jest, to make fun of it. To kind of poke around the fact. Well, they, as if they have such charitable goals and whatever. But I've harped on this before, and the idea is, if you ask me, that one, they're independent, right? They may be making almost a million watches a year, but um, they're an independent brand. They're not owned by a luxury conglomerate, so they have that flexibility of charting their own trajectory without being fed it from the corporate headquarters, without being force fed, um, upside down. And also, they're not subject to the whims of a single um, renegade slash vanguard slash degenerate CEO who starts doing whatever they want the minute they land the job because they think it's the best idea that anyone has ever come up with. They're actually led by an entire board of trustees of the charitable foundation. Of course, the CEO is still at the helm. Of course, I'm sure they are still the ones who finally sign off on the decisions. But the fact that they're a charitable foundation means that they're not subject to the whims of a luxury conglomerate or a single, possibly demented, but certainly narcissistic individual.
Hmm.
Thomas Broadbent says AP Offshore Perpetual, made possible by Gégé Lecoultre. Messaging Matters says, to be honest, I have tons of dive bezels and never use them to time ordinary things. Tonight I cooked with my girlfriend and used the clock on the stove plus simple math. Hey, that's cool. Um, yeah, I don't know how to use simple math, so I rather use my use my diving bezel. Quite honestly, it's you don't usually even realize how time passes when you are with people that you love. So it it must have been fun nonetheless. The most useful for me, Full on John says, would probably be an alarm, something like the Tutor Advisor. Tutor Advisor alarm. Let's. Hmm. Yeah, that could be interesting. I know they have a lot of alarm watches, and I like actually the tactility too of an alarm watch. Right? It's basically it's like an entry level chiming watch, you might say. Of course, it's not a complication at the level of a minute repeater. Of course, the pleasantness of the sound is not really at the forefront. It's not the same kind of complication, but it still feels nice, even on the wrist, to to experience that alarm on a watch. I like that complication. I'm glad you brought it up, Full on John. Full on John says, "Yeah, I've fiked up cooking a couple of times because the dive bezel doesn't let you know your food is burning unless you look down at it." Yeah, man. Who has the time to actually look down at your watch to check the time, man? Who has that kind of time?
Sometimes you have to leave the room. You need a reminder. And it's stuck to your wrist.
Yes, and also, when all kinds of accidents are possible when you're cooking with your girlfriend. So even even the alarm clock might not save you. Messaging Matters says yes, LOL. And Thomas Broadband says Rolex is the perfect hustle. Everybody is gaining. They raise the money for the causes of rich and famous. New buyers love it. Tudor buyers love them. The gray market loves them. And internet benefits. I like them as the gateway to the watch world's stratification and deeper investigation. Hey, why not? Absolutely.
Apparently, Rolex owns a lot of real estate in places like Geneva, Switzerland.
Right. To there's always whenever someone wants to impress that point upon people, they always keep saying, well, they almost own as much real estate as the Catholic Church or something, or like they're the second richest in terms of real estate after the Vatican or something.
Seriously?
No, people keep saying these things all the
Okay,
time,
no, I just
um,
heard it offhand and
but I don't
just
doubt it.
found it
Actually,
interesting.
I don't doubt it. I don't doubt that they own a lot of real estate. I don't know whether that can reach the extent of an organized religion. But hey, I mean, the foundation is very very rich in its resources. That's unmistakable.
And compared in age to the Vatican, if we will, then nothing in compared to age.
um,
Rolex is 100 years old. The Vatican is how old?
I don't know where are you counting from. I think they would like to think that they're exactly as old as Jesus himself, but
The
hey,
Vatican or Rolex?
no, the Vatican. But, I mean, look, the Swiss watch industry is a little diluted, so I'm sure they carry themselves around with the self importance of
Should we
uh,
do a poll? Should we do a poll? It's a two-question poll. First question is, would Jesus wear a watch? Second question is, what watch would he wear? If so, what watch would he wear?
hey, I think I've answered this question before. I think he would wear an Apple Watch or like a SWAT jellyfish or something because he's automatically cooler than everyone else, right? So
No, but
uh,
he needs to be within the fabric And it needs to be timeless.
But maybe he would bite into his wrist and make those watches that we would in primary school. Um, hey, Jay Gray. We're joking about it, but it's a truly theological question, and I'm not sure if I'm
Hmm.
qualified to answer it. We might need to bring
Uh,
in Lex Report
and
to
well, okay.
give his
I'm
spiritual take on the
I'm
question.
not I'm not really ever looking for answers,
Just
but
asking the
it's
question.
fun to pose questions.
Um, Full on John says, "Man, I just realized I have an ugly Viking wrist." Well, imagine having my face and having to see it every morning in the mirror, man. You're doing just fine. My fist is like the same size as my wrist. Certainly won't be modeling for any Hodinky pictures. I wonder if Hodinky has a listing for hand models once every so often in their job section.
Yeah, I
Someone
think
check.
every catalog includes plus sizes now.
Man. Messaging Matters says most annoying complication is anything Jamie shows off. Oh, we love Jamie Opulence, man. Just kidding.
And I love his watches too.
Just kidding. Aussie expat. There's so many Rolex facts never sourced. Red Book had countless. On that note, by the way, I have an entire interview on this channel where I reviewed Jamie's collection with him on board, uh, with him actually conversing with me as we go through his collection piece by piece. So I will um, send the link here. And messaging matters. Feel free not to watch it if you find it too irritating. Hey, it's a beautiful, beautiful collection and a very thoughtful one too. And the way he started with certain hype watches that he then basically converted into what he exactly wanted and what he thought represented him and his lifestyle, I think is a very good story, a very good description of his journey in the art of collecting watches as a
He's a
form
thoughtful young
of
man.
self, yeah, as a form of self-expression, really. Yeah, I mean, very thoughtful. I don't know how young, but
He's
hey,
in his early 30s.
younger than me, probably. Looks younger than
Well,
than I do, for sure.
not many of us. We'll leave it at that. But yes, he's in his early 30s.
Aussie expat says the Catholic Church is the longest contiguously existing organization. It's like Vacheron Constantin, the longest continuously existing watchmaker in the world. Thomas Broadbent says, I think we should research Hans Wilsdorf's succession planning and motivations. I think what I just said, he had in mind. He wanted something to preserve his legacy. Um, and that's why he established a foundation, I think, rather than handing it to
Yeah, if
just the
anyone
next
knows
director.
of anyone that has researched that, I
Mhm.
think it's turned out to be a pretty good business model.
Aussie expat says God's watch would be God tier G Shock DW5600. Interesting.
Yeah, I
Um,
think God's
full
more
on
into sundials.
full on John says reverso with a really beat up leather strap for Jesus. All right. Aussie expat says carpenters don't wear a luxury watch. Good questions for Watch Gringa. Hey,
Exactly.
Watch Gringa, come back. Although you have never been to this channel, you're more than welcome. Um,
It's only a matter of time.
honestly, I don't mind. We are doing just fine. But hey, I used to have at the beginning. I used to have quite a considerable number of viewers who identified as women, and nowadays I have practically none. So I have managed to alienate every single one of them. It seems it could be nice to gain some of them back. Messaging Matters says, I read on the internet that Rolex chooses the Swiss Guard for the Vatican. So it must be true. Yes, everything you read on the internet, Messaging Matters, by default, must be true.
What's true about the Swiss Guard?
Well, I don't know, but Messaging Matters apparently read on the internet, and he sarcastically or sardonically points out that, hey, Rolex actually chooses them for the Vatican.
I
You know,
heard
it's
a good
you
number
know
of them resign their posts.
you know the Swiss Guard, right? Um,
Yes, I heard a good number of them resign their posts a year or so back.
okay. What was the rumor behind that?
Oh, they were in a disagreement with um, medications.
Oh, okay. I see. I see. I had no clue that there was that kind of um, movement among the Swiss guards. Do you?
When I saw this, whether it was factual or not, I felt really proud of the Swiss Guard.
Mm. I mean, look, whenever I see them, I always like to think that they can't be taking themselves too seriously wearing stuff like that. But hey, it's good to have your own
I always thought that
principles.
as well until this happened, and it's like, well, they're not there to protect one man. They protect more than that.
I'm sure. I'm sure. Again, I always have respect for people who all hold on to what they believe in, who are ready to defend their convictions, even if I completely disagree with them. So respect to them. Thomas Broadband says, "Do you remember the Tudor fabric claims when they launched the Heritage Krona? I had no clue. They said they were from the same place the Pope has his vestments woven. That's not, quite frankly, that's not so impossible because actually, Gammarelli, the Roman tailor that makes all these garments from uh, all, all everything for from socks to everything else, all the vestments and whatever. It's it's a store that you can buy from just walking in Rome, Gammarelli, and their socks are really beautiful, and they sell them to you. It's I think only perhaps the socks in white silk that they supply to Pope. Maybe they might not sell it to you if you walk in from the street, but the red ones that they supply to the cardinals, the purple ones that they supply to bishops, on and on and on, those you can easily buy yourself. So I wouldn't really be surprised if Tudor somehow um, got fabrics from Gammarelli or from their source for fabrics to produce certain things. They're not so exclusive that you are not allowed to buy as a civilian. Aussie Expat says he had no children. Aussie Expat again asks, can we have a segment on Pope's watches? Only if you commit to co-hosting it, Aussie. I would be more than happy. But I'm not qualified to talk about it, so I would need
The
a
popes have
co-host.
received a lot of Italian bicycles over the years. Usually they're gold plated.
Aussie Expat says NATO strap from the Shroud of Turin. Oh my God. Thomas Broadbent says, I think the Pope would do a reverso on a fabric, Casa Fagliano, of course,
No,
being from
she's
Argentina
doing a
himself, perhaps.
Caligula. The Pope is doing a Caligula.
but he's
Uh,
from Argentina. So I know he's a huge fan of at least the sport of
Jacob and
football.
Co.
Don't think so. Corrado Galizia says, my favorite story is when Ferrari gave the Pope the last Enzo.
Exactly. That's what they do in Italy. They give the Pope. The Pope has received a lot of bicycles over the years.
Bishop's undies sounds like a king. Just socks, purple socks. But they are calf length, so they are kind of you can consider them part of your undergarments in a way. Messaging Matters says, I do really like Jamie. So do I. I read on the internet that he was the role model for Ray Winston's character Gal in Sexy Beast. So
Sexy Beast. Are you familiar with that movie?
I'm not actually.
Oh, that's you. Yep, that's a good one.
Mm.
Write that down. Write that down, everyone. Sexy Beast. If you haven't seen it, check it out. Walking down the beaches, checking out the beaches.
And so this is by the way, since we mentioned them, let's give them a little bit of exposure. Sartoria Gammarelli from Rome with the very humble motto of nobilitas in traditione. Tailor shop for ecclesiastics since 1793. And they even have their own e-commerce now. And they deliver worldwide. You see, you can buy all these things, from baby socks to, to chalices,
Can you flip this stuff?
entire vestments. I don't know. But I'm sure. I'm sure that maybe certain items go for a premium in the secondary market. I wanna. Who wants to become a gray market dealer for Catholic vestments?
If you want, I would say to anyone that wants to try it, cut your teeth, go to the dollar store, buy stuff, and then go to the flea market and try to triple your money. Have fun.
But yeah, the baby socks are especially cute. And as you see, I was saying they have the cardinal red and bishop's purple as well. Very beautiful. Oh,
Yeah, there's a lovely young couple that would knit socks and mittens, and they would only sell them to you for a Bitcoin when a Bitcoin was valued at $1.
Thomas Broadbent. The Swiss Guard is no joke. They're dudes without guns. They're well-oiled machine with traditional garb. Behind the scenes, it's like Secret Service, and the non-ceremonial guys are geared up.
Absolutely.
Sure. The Swiss actually have a very respectable army. They have always been neutral, but that doesn't
Well,
necessarily
there's
mean they're not
more
prepared.
weapons in Switzerland than everyone's done their
Mm.
time. They all have a weapon in their closet.
Aussie expat says, in the book The Sum of All Fears, the Swiss Guard was deployed to Palestine to peacekeep. On that note, guys, we have just crossed our threshold into our last hour. Please upvote the stream if you have enjoyed it so far. Hit that like button. Give us a little more exposure. If you're willing to spread the word and share the link on other platforms, I would very much appreciate that. It's really invaluable to me as I make my way to 1,000 subscribers, as I'm trying to get this channel monetized. Hey, in the meantime, if you want to support me, if you want to encourage the work that I'm doing in this channel, feel free to also consider a donation on PayPal, which is at lordhellespontv@gmail.com, lordhellespontv@gmail.com. I also have a Cash App, $LHVVV, $LHVVV. Corrado Galizia says, for the last Enzo, the Pope sold it later to donate the money. More power
Yeah,
to him.
yeah.
More power to him.
That's what happens with the bicycles as well. They get auctioned off.
Nice. Yeah. Good. Good on him. I like the fact that he's an austere man, for sure. Aussie Expat says, no history better than fictional history, whether it's military or watches. Hey, if it sticks, I don't mind it in watches. I do mind it a little bit when fictional history sticks better than the real story. But hey, Messaging Matters says the last couple of popes wore quite dandy red shoes. Therefore, Francis should wear one of Kevin O'Leary's matching red straps. Funny. Thomas says, I'm Catholic, you can laugh. Hey, man, we have deep respect for people of all faiths, and of those who don't have faith too, they're more than welcome here. It's a platform that doesn't target anyone, that doesn't discriminate against anyone. All are welcome here.
Dirk Diggler's avatar makes me want to respond to his question.
What?
This is a clam bake.
What the heck is this? That was Sartoria Gammarelli, the Roman tailor that specializes in ecclesiastic clothing and has been supplying the Vatican for quite some time now. Since we talked about them, I thought it was only appropriate that I bring them up. Aussie Expat says, the Swiss Guard are mercenaries.
If the Swiss Guard are the mercenaries, who are the Jesuits?
Thomas Broadbent says the gift store was hilarious.
What are the Jesuits?
Educators.
Hmm.
No, I appreciate them. I like the Jesuits,
Well,
honestly.
you have no choice.
Mm.
They are.
This is a watch that I came across, by the way, just yesterday when I was looking at some ingenieurs from IWC, some of the discontinued models. Apparently, this was something they produced as a limited edition for the legend that is Zinedine Zidane. And as you see, it highlights his shirt number 10 at 10 o'clock. It carries the colors of the French flag, of course, the tricolore, so to speak. And it also comes with a matching blue croc strap with contrasting red stitching. They also had apparently another limited edition of a big ingenieur that was later designed by him or designed with a more personal intervention of him. The number 10 remains the same. The case is, of course, a little bit bigger, this being the big ingenieur, 7-day power reserve. And in addition to that, on the chapter ring, the number 27 and 45 are further highlighted because those were the two minutes of play where Zinedine Zidane scored against Brazil in that famous final of the World Cup in 1998. 8. And this version also has a rotor that has Zidane's name on it, and as well as the number 10, his shirt number, 1 out of 500. I think it's a very cool watch. I always liked Ingenieros anyways. I like the Blue Dial one a little better, mostly because I have puny wrists. So if I get one of these, I would have to get the smaller one. So my subconscious tells me to like it better, so I don't get my heart broken. But nevertheless, both are very cool watches. And hey, this is not necessarily a complication or a function per se, but increasingly, I actually love seeing a power reserve on the dial.
On the
Uh,
dial. On the
yeah,
dial.
yeah, yeah. I know it's paradoxical because I used to be an almost exclusively three-hander guy. Of course, I have always loved GMTs, but I have also always preferred my no date two-liner Submariner just because of that simple, beautiful look. Um,
The picture you showed of the movement of this piece, it looked like the case back had been removed. Does it have a display case back?
it is a display case back. Yes, it is. I think it's sapphire crystal with anti-reflective coating. That's why you get a very clear view of it, if I'm not mistaken. Um, Dirk Diggler says, anybody watch F1? I used to watch it pretty religiously until I saw Ayrton Senna basically die um, on the screen. Of course, not. I wasn't there. Um, but I want to go back to watching it. Speaking of which, of course, the IWC. Um,
Monaco was raced yesterday, and I was giddy because it was pouring down rain at the beginning of the race. And
mm,
Red Bull won, and they are sponsored by Tag. And I believe Tag has a Monaco watch. I think we were just.
yeah, we were just talking about it.
Yeah. So, yes, Dirk, I follow the F1. I was so happy to see Checo win. That was great.
That's true. He seemed to be pretty emotional about it
Oh,
too,
he
and
was. He was holding it. He was just barely holding it together at the podium ceremony.
yeah, and it's look, I
And
mean,
podium ceremony, if you could just give me a second, reminds me of something I haven't shared with the watch community. What happened in the Giro d'Italia bicycle race, Italy? 21
right.
stages over 3.5 weeks. Stage 10, back the first part of last week. No, week before last week. So 2 weeks tomorrow was stage 10. And a black South African, or a black African from Eritrea, Gourmet, was the first to ever win a stage in a Grand Tour.
Mm.
And immediately after the podium ceremony, they rushed him off to the hospital.
Oh, okay.
The champagne cork popped out and hit him directly in his left eye. He had to abandon the race because of the podium ceremony.
Mm. Yeah, I missed the good joke earlier by Aussie Expat saying 10 was actually um, not the shirt number, but the exact angle Zinedine Zidane needed for that headbutt in the 2006 World Cup final against Marco Materazzi. Very funny. Thomas Broadbent says about the Zidane Ingenieur, well balanced, fresh, and lively. Aussie Expert says you want that slight upward thrust on a headbutt. Interesting. Not 9, not 11, but 10. I would have just given a yellow card, Thomas says. No, I don't think you can get away with headbutting your opponent in football. Um, Date. Power reserve would trigger my OCD. Hey, I kind of, I've grown to like it. I've grown to like it. Great race in Monaco for Red Bull and Ferrari. Aussie Expat says, now that Hamilton isn't winning, I should be tuning in. I actually, I actually like Hamilton, man. I like him quite a bit. 1, 2, 3, 4. Thomas Broadbent. I met Perez at a Disney World hotel. Hey, nice guy, real down to earth.
I wonder if sorry,
No, no, go ahead. I wasn't saying anything.
I was just wondering what the guys think if Netflix is now directing F1.
I think it's been, all in all, it's been a great success, I have to say, because what's the name of that documentary series that they come up with every year? What is it? The Drive to Survive?
Yeah, I think
Um,
so. But when it comes to sports, there's always gambling involved, and there's always fixes in. I think all of it.
right. Yeah, of course. But by all means, but that was there before Netflix, and it will be there after Netflix too. Um, all I was saying about the documentary is that I think that Drive to Survive series really managed to bring in a lot of mainstream people who had no interest before in racing or in Formula One into the sport, because it's, and we have been talking about this in this channel, right? When something has a story and a compelling story to go with it, even if you can't organically relate to it, you start forming a more human connection to it. And I think Drive to Survive and the entire Netflix production that goes with the sport has given it that sort of mainstream access. Whether that's something to be lamented or not, I it's not really for me to judge. I think it's, all in all, it's a good for the sport, honestly, to gain a little more exposure, because
So
all
is
the
it good for the sport to have Lewis Hamilton coming in the back of the midfield for this year? Is that how controlled it might be?
yeah, I mean, I thought the way Verstappen won last year wasn't entirely fair either. But I'm not sure if I would blame Netflix for that. The Formula One, as with any sport, has its sordid internal politics, and it has a longer history than Netflix's involvement, to be honest. So I'm not sure. But yeah, I actually like Lewis Hamilton, so I don't like the fact that he's not up there this season. I didn't really like how he lost last time around, but I try not to be bitter. Um, and yeah,
I have one person in my personal daily life that follows F1, and it was two and a half years ago. On a Monday morning, first thing I said to him was, "F1 is fixed."
well, I mean, every major sport in one way or another has a fix. I'm not sure if something is entirely necessarily decided behind the scenes around the round table, but the fact that there are major super or supra sport forces that try to intervene, I think it's not speculation. I mean, I'm a boxing fan, so I'm at once very aware and quite cynical when it comes to these things. I know they happen. I'm not gonna let them take away from my enjoyment of the sport. That's my main perspective, Jay Gray.
Has
That's
there
why.
ever been a boxer that wore a watch in a match?
No, you can't. You can't because the uh,
And you
you know
can't wear a watch in Formula One either.
that's why that's basically the only part of the sport that gains any real scrutiny, even though they also miss certain things. The way the hands are wrapped, and then they are signed by the commission, and then they glove up again with the supervision of the commission representative, as well as a representative from the opposing camp, so on and so forth. That's the only way that the support is really supervised in any substantive fashion. Aussie
Okay.
expat. Hey man,
Hi there.
how are
Man,
you?
that's an awesome question there, Jay Gray. What watch would you wear if you were allowed to wear one while boxing?
That'd probably a G-Shock.
I think it calls for like a deep sea.
Okay.
You want something that will take the knocks but has the heft. If I could go
Bubba Watson, maybe.
for I'll join you for as long as family stays quiet. I'll enjoy the stream this evening.
Of course, and again, they don't have to be quiet either. But this is what Lewis
Protest.
was wearing in the
Protest.
in protest, and in Miami specifically, the new team issued IWC Pilot 41, an older, bigger pilot. I'm assuming it's 43, but I am not sure. And then the Mojave Perpetual. It's a very great. I think it's the Perpetual, right? I think it's
What
the
is
Perpetual.
what is it with these luxury watches with tangs that go 6 o'clock instead of 12 o'clock?
Say it again.
What is with these straps now where the tang is going out? Is that coming? Isn't that's on his right? So that's coming under or over? Under. That's at 6 o'clock, isn't it? Okay, that's fair. Because I saw that in the Tudors where the tang is on the reverse side. I'm like, I don't understand.
Oh yeah,
there's
this
a
was the watch he was
There's a
wearing.
conspiracy that just popped into my head. Lewis Hamilton called FIA and said, we're not supposed to be wearing watches, but I'm going to wear 3, and they're all IWC.
Yeah. I need a way that I can be seen as a hero today because I'm not winning today.
Right, and I get to wear 3 of my sponsors' watches. And
I think in this case it's because of the Deployant buckle, Aussie. Look, this is the watch that he was wearing, the Mojave Desert color scheme perpetual calendar.
It's very tasteful, the colors.
I actually like it as well. Yeah, I don't know what it is, but I like the renewal that IWC is going through, even though I think their CEO is a complete tool whom I can't suffer. But I really like the watches that they keep coming out with, so I'll give him a break and don't let my personal pettiness take over the issue.
I don't like the crown. I know it's like a thing for them or whatever. It is distinctive. I just I can't take that seriously.
well, nice pieces. That was a nice piece of marketing.
It's like yeah, I mean it's like the Tudor big crown, You know, it's part of the aesthetics, but I understand what you mean. It's a little overwhelming, the onion crown. Um,
Should we
but
dissect his hand tattoos?
I think that's over my head, certainly.
The left hand, especially the back of his left hand. Just focusing on that for a
But
second.
there he is with his friend Tom Brady playing a game of golf, I guess, wearing their matching Mojaves.
Yeah, Tom Brady was in an IWC ad before Top Gun Maverick.
Mm.
I got this keyboard now because it has
Is it Tiffany blue?
yes, relatively silent keys compared to look, I'll put it right next to the microphone.
Is it Petronas green, Tiffany blue?
Well, I got it because of the sound, like compared to that.
Right. Yeah, I mean I had in the pre-show I had Swiss on, and he had a real vintage keyboard that had even more of a typewriter vibe than what you just displayed. Dirk Diggler says all sports are fixed. I don't doubt it in one way or another. Aussie Expat says I'd love Fernando Alonso on top again. He's my guy. He's gotten older, but yeah, he's a legend in his own right.
I'm surprised he's still racing, but
he still holds
my
his
guy.
own, though. He still holds his own.
Yeah, to me, he's still a champion. He is still a champion, literally.
Messaging matters. This was the training camp shirt that Triple G and his team had in the run-up to the first Canelo fight in 2017. So this is my favorite one. I like the odd combination of khaki with gold lettering, so it's kind of muted and loud at the same time.
Do you have a money team shirt, Lord?
No, because I love Mayweather as a boxer, not as a character per se. And I'm saying it precisely because I know some of that is just a shtick. Because he's a heel, right? He's like a WWE character in public life. That he's trying to come across as obnoxious, as loud, as rich. And here I'm going to show you how rich I am and how much money I have, so on and so forth. And I have no I have no interest in projecting that message myself.
So could you tell me why his draw with that YouTuber doesn't count as a draw? It looked like a boxing match to me. I don't understand why people say a draw would not ruin his record. As best as I know, I saw what happened. It was a draw.
Well, here's the thing, because that fight was not sanctioned as a professional fight. Some might say that his very last fight, the 50th fight with Conor McGregor, should also not have been sanctioned as a professional boxing bout by the Nevada Athletic Commission, because I think, well, not only was that a debut for McGregor for professional boxing, I think he had maybe one amateur fight in his entire career. So I wouldn't have, like, if I were an expert on that commission, I would not have sanctioned that fight as a professional boxing fight. So his record should have been 49 and 0, if you ask me. That being said, it's just semantics at some level, semantics and legal nuances. So that draw doesn't count as anything because it was not sanctioned. The bout was not sanctioned as a professional boxing fight. So whether he won, lost, or whatever would have no bearing on his career. We are talking about Logan Paul and Mayweather fighting in an exhibition bout. 70s Lambo Espada is a classic mechanical watch. Get rid of radios in bike races. Interesting. Panerai. Instead of... Sorry.
That's a very interesting point that Thomas made. Get rid of radios in bicycle racing. I don't think it'll happen.
it flew right over my head. I don't even know what he's talking about. So if you need,
We're
if you
talking
want to
about a guy in the team car following the bike race,
Mhm.
watching the live television coverage on his dashboard, and seeing what's going on in the whole field of almost 200 riders, and saying, "You do this, you do this. This is what's happening next."
Mm.
The bicycle race is directed from the team car.
So in a similar way to F1, basically, huh?
Yes, yes.
Messaging Matters says, instead of watch unboxing, we have watch boxing. I would wear an Invicta. Yeah, it's Invictas. Big Invictas can be
Oh,
good knuckle
he knows
boxing.
the game very well. I went for deep sea. That's very little bang for buck. I mean, I think you can get a watch at least 4 times the size of a deep sea from the Invicta. In fact, I was talking to an Aussie gentleman the other day, and it looked like Invicta's interpretation of a deep sea challenge. That's the boxing watch.
Yeah, for bare knuckle boxing specifically, I guess. And you can, I think it should still be legal, but hey, when you're fighting on the street, there are no rules. So you do whatever you can.
So, what about a Cartier watch in a ring?
You're not getting anything. You're not getting anything on the ring, that's for sure. Um, but yeah, the Ali used to wear a tank. Ali used to wear a Cartier tank, of course. And this always comes up whenever we talk about boxers and watches. I think it was the most tasteful one.
My father met Ali.
My father
My
met
father.
Ali. You said,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, that's very cool.
It's a story that he was very happy to share with me. Guess who I met?
Yeah, there we go. This is tank right there. And this is GQ being stingy with their leads. But yeah, going back to for a second to Formula One and the Mercedes AMG Petronas watch. Do you still have the hots for it, Ozzy? Do you still like it?
Yeah, totally. I think it's really, really cool. Looks nice. I don't. I talked to an AD on Friday, and they said I don't think they'll ever see one. They're not a boutique, but so he wasn't. He didn't think that they would even see it. But in addition to that, he said they would also potentially be quite rare as well. I'm like, okay.
Mhm. And did you were you would you prefer to go through with them because they would give you a discount, or did you just ask to see if you can actually access it without even thinking of it?
I just want to see it first. If if it could be lined up as like part of you also getting a Rolex as well, then that
Mm.
obviously makes it a little bit more interesting too. But
Hey, here's the
as far
thing.
as
If
I
you
know, I
want,
don't think there's any chance. Like if it's boutique only, then the only thing you'll get
right.
is like hotter IWCs. But maybe this is already the pinnacle at the moment.
I think it's a boutique only. They present it as online exclusive, but I think even that is a shtick to pull you into the boutique.
Mhm.
But on a more personal perspective, hey, if you are making it to LA anytime soon, or if you want to have a day trip of some sort, come on over. We can go to the boutique. They have a display version. You can try it on. You can see if you like it, and we can drop by other watch stores and explore a little bit. And it could be a good time for us to sit down and grab a cup of coffee, lunch, strategize a little bit to stage our takeover of this YouTube space.
Yeah, we'll see. My wife wanted to make a trip to LA sometime in the next few months, so we'll see.
Yeah, of course, this is a column wheel vertical clutch chronograph, not flyback, unfortunately, but the fact that it's column wheel means that you can let the center sweeping seconds run without risking the movement in any way. And it also means that when you start stop the chronograph, you don't have the seconds hand stutter, jump ahead or jump back. So it's a very decent piece. It has a respectable, robust movement. Again, nothing all that impressive, but I did love the execution of this Petronas green. Rather than an entire dial in that color with, say, black accents, I like the fact that they kept the teal, turquoise, Petronas green, Tiffany blue, Robin's egg, duck
Is that
egg,
what
whatever it is.
very much
Uh,
like a Robin's?
Yeah,
Robin's.
I do.
Is that what
I do like it.
distinguishes this watch from another line in the brand?
Say that again.
The color of the loom. And
Yes, basically the loom is with the hour and minute hands as well as the quarters. So 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 6, and 9. Those are the only parts that are actually loomed. The rest is just painted on.
okay. But it's the distinct color that separates it from another watch.
Yes, because they do have a line of IWC Pilot 41 chronograph that also comes in steel. This is also in titanium. That's the other thing that separates it. I guess I should say that. Whereas you also have in steel this particular model in blue or green on matching leather strap for the blue and a dark brown leather strap for the green. And yeah, these are all in steel.
Back to the F1 again. There's a new
Yes.
there's a new brand on the scene, and they're sponsoring Alfa Romeo,
Mm.
and they're called Rebellion. Last year, Alfa Romeo was sponsored by Richard Mille.
Mm. Yeah. So
Yeah, the only thing that puts me off is the size. I don't have a small wrist in any way, shape, or form, and the bigger the watch, the harder it is to wear with a strap.
okay, so you have the same problem as I do, right? Like
Yeah, I
your
mean, how does
wrists
that
are
feel?
too.
Like it just feels like just a little bit of tension on the sides of your wrist.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind actually. Everything else I have, you could see in that previous man, this one, because you will, when I zoom to the rest of the watches, you can see my GMT Master 2 there, 16710. Everything else I have is in that smaller size. So it's a little attractive to me actually to have something that's a little oversized, that's a little bit different metal as well. Everything I have is mainly in steel. So to have something in titanium is attractive. And if it's bigger, man. It's supposed to be bigger. It's kind of like the Panerai. If you're getting Panerai, you are signing up for a big watch. And this is actually the smallest one they came up with more recently. Of course, the vintage ones could be also smaller, but I don't mind it. It's not that bad, actually. I mean, if you just focus on my wrist, it might look big, but sometimes people don't think about the larger issue of proportions. I'm not a small guy. I do have chicken wrists, but I'm tall. I'm muscular, and it doesn't look so bad as part of the larger picture, so to speak. But yes, if you zoom onto my wrist, it looks like a child trying to wear his father's watch. Absolutely. Thomas Broadbent says, another incredible bike racing moment, stunning, wonderful, and beautiful Olympic moment. Anna Kiesenhofer, Queen of the Breakaway, Swiss 2. Aussie Expat says, or I could just paint one of my Scheiders crystal spray paint in Petronas green. Wow. Nice. As you can see, as my main lieutenant in the chat, Aussie Expat is taking full advantage also of his ability to post links. Post a link to the Discord as well, Aussie, while you're at it, please. We always need more people in our sinister machinations behind the scenes. Brown G-Force says Bellmatic. This is, I'm assuming it's a response to favorite complications.
Maybe it reminds him of a ball watch.
Oh.
Those things are thick. Thick as a railroad track.
Thick as a bowl of oatmeal.
Yeah. Thick. Bottom line, thick.
THICC or THICK?
Alan Thick all day long.
Just kidding. Aussie Expat says, for offline chat, anonymous. Discord. Thank you. Cam Prancing Elites. Hello and happy holiday. Well, again, it's a commemorative holiday, so I'm not sure if it's necessarily happy for everyone. Especially for people who may have lost someone, of course. And as I began the stream, we thank everyone for their service, of course. But more importantly, this is a day where we remember that, one, freedom is not free. Two, where we try to honor in some way the memory of those who have fallen and who have been lost in the service of their country. So, thicker than a snicker, Camp Prancing Elite says, as we shift our discussion back to lighter matters. Messaging Matters says, I have been rewatching Game of Thrones. I am still to watch a single episode of this show. Never really caught the bug.
I've got 30 minutes of the pilot.
Okay. No judgment implied by that, by the way. It just didn't catch me. Now I want a watch made of Valerian steel. I don't even know what that means. But yeah, I like this watch, and I shouldn't, because not simply because it's something that might be potentially hated, but I've always said, in fact, right after looking at this watch, I was talking to Justin Forge and I was saying, man, I do actually hate this particular configuration of Flieger or pilot's chronograph. You know, the reading supposedly enhances the reading, right, from 12, 9, and 6, rather than the usual 3-register configuration, which is 3, 6, 9. But I still like it on this one, and I don't know why. I really don't. I like it. Oh, we have a guest again. Hello, friend.
Yeah, sorry, I'm a little quiet because the smaller one's being very noisy right now.
No, he should. I mean, he should button. What is your favorite watch complication, Junior? What do you like on your watch?
Well, he's quite the connoisseur. He's normally wearing a calculator watch.
Ah,
Match that, guys.
I can't. I'm not. I'm not a math guy. So
This is a Casio.
Yeah, I mean, seriously. I mean, how many watches can do division? That's
Is it
serious
a-
stuff.
Texas Instruments. What's he rocking? What's going on in the world of calculator watches?
I think it's still.
It's still
No,
for
go ahead.
sale. Yeah, he normally wears it to kindergarten now.
And it's the Casio, I guess, right? You know, they.
Yeah, it's a great wearing watch. The only downside, no light.
Really? They don't have the light function on the side?
No, not on the calculator watch for some reason.
No, you don't need to worry about having a light until you're in your 50s.
Thomas says, "Did you watch the Mountain Thor versus Eddie Best?" I did not. Didn't watch that either. But hey, Brown GeForce and Cam Prancing Elites, by the way, welcome to the show. Welcome to the channel. Guys, we might be going for a little longer.
I should duck out. It is well
I've
past.
told him to get his watch. We'll see if he
Oh, I'll
understood
stick
what I
around for
said.
that. I'll stick around for that then.
All right, so let's see the most complicated watch that we will see today.
Yeah, and
rivaling-
perpetual calendar as well.
Aye.
Date.
Aye.
Serious business.
Certainly more
Alarm,
than
hour charm.
certainly more than the 31-day or 65-day power reserve that we have seen from such giants as Lange und Söhne and Vacheron Constantin as well. How long does this one last?
Oh, I don't know. I think it's got a 10-year, and it also has one time zone GMT, so you can track one other time zone.
Told you it is going to be our most complicated watch, and it is.
It is pretty. I mean, it is amazing, just like how much easier it is to do things in electronics than mechanic. Like they're both computers, but it's just way easier to do it in silicon.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only fascinating thing that you can do with perpetual, which is something that speaking of IWC, Kurt Klaus did with a nice little module for the Valjoux 7750, was to come up with a perpetual calendar that could be manipulated and adjusted with a single pusher, and would not so everything would be synchronized, right? That the complication would have an entire memory for 28 30 and 31 day months, so that it would not need even an adjustment into the next century. So,
Let me go help him.
all right. Since he hasn't come back yet, I guess that's the assumption.
Dad, I left it in the watch case. I know it was there.
Yeah, he has been a constant, recurrent guest, Aussie Junior, in the show. We always love saying hi to him, greeting him, chatting a little bit. He has good manners. I like that. He really does. I remember one of the first times I've seen him, he was kind of in the background after his father introduced him, and he had to get outside, off the frame. So he kind of waved goodbye before leaving. So I really appreciated that. Let's see. Do you have your watch on, Junior?
Okay. So we have the Casio. Oh, please focus. It's going to be a bit hard.
Ooh.
There we go. I think you can
Nice.
see a little bit of it's very legible. I do like that about it.
Yes.
There we go.
Junior
So you
can't
got-
hear our accolades, can he?
No. Look at that AM PM indicator, month. Sorry, Monday, seconds, and then what else we got here? Mode. So this mode's calculation time, but
Mhm.
then it does have other modes. So it's got alarm, and that's the second time zone.
Amazing.
Stopwatch, so chrono. Amazing, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
wonderful.
Great.
And he has been
Nice.
wearing it to daycare for about 2 weeks now, which is
Nice
quite
watch.
the change.
Does he know how to make a quick whist watch check?
No, and he also doesn't know how to spell the word boobs on it yet. So that's another big. That's horological
Hey,
history.
give it-
The erotic watches.
Give it
Being able to spell
time.
boobs on this,
There you go. There you go.
we'll show on another show. We'll do that for everyone. We'll show you a watch and you turn it upside down. It says boobs.
Can't wait.
Well, it's I think he is too young for that, so I'm glad he hasn't yet figured it out.
Well, no, not too young. Just different context, right? Just different desires.
That's also true. Guys, we are actually coming to a close. It's been almost 3 hours, so we will wave goodbye to you in just a little bit. If you have enjoyed the show today, if you have learned something from it, please don't forget to upvote, hit that like button, help us gain a little more exposure. He was showing off his watch just now.
Dude,
You show your watch, Junior. Yeah, higher. Yeah, there we go.
Attaboy.
He's doing the military style under.
Oh yeah, yeah. Someone was sharing with me some World War II history. Apparently, it was also because obviously the watch face and the crystal is more reflective. So if you wear it upside down, you are perhaps potentially less exposed to the enemy, potentially less at risk of being taken off by a sniper. Guys, yes, please spread the word, share the link on other platforms. It would help me a great deal to get that much closer to 1,000 subs, to get the channel monetized. In the meantime, it's in the ticker. You know how to support me. PayPal, lordhellespont@gmail.com, lordhellespont@gmail.com. And I also have a Cash App, which is $LHVVV, $LHVVV.
Our favorite farmer. You tell these city slickers how their suggestions are terrible, and they should stop talking about how to farm.
Joe,
They should.
Smoking Joe the farmer. Basil's Bagels is here before the buzzer. Hey, wait, did the other live stream end? So I get someone else's sloppy seconds? Is that what it is?
My goodness, Lord. The fact that you referred to me as sloppy seconds, that is insulting.
I thought that was our shtick. You come into my show and I insult you. I thought that's exactly how this works.
Ratings gold.
As long as he's not here to
What are you wearing?
Oh, I'm wearing the men's size Explorer, not
Well, that's not
the ladies'
that's
size.
not a calculator watch. We're all wearing calculator watches.
Let us see.
Right.
You want something digital, though? I do have
Cool
something digital right here, though.
Cool.
Yeah. But it doesn't have
Hold
a
it out of the box.
calculator. Where's the calculator?
Calculator's too bulky.
Junior, pull up your calculator watch. Show Farmer Joe what's what.
So he's doing it.
There you
Show you
go.
watch. There we go.
That
What a
You gotta
flex!
just straight
What a
up, just
flex
there.
right there.
Yes,
That's right.
There we go. It's beautiful.
Good
Give
job,
a
man.
fist to the punters.
Basil says, I think Tim is still going to be fair. I went with the side of Lord. Thank you, man.
Yeah,
I'm
Timmy's
flattered.
still going.
Yeah. But again, Joe only comes here when he's bored with the other programming. So I still feel honored. I'm always a good second choice.
Well, you're technically the third choice, Lord. I mean, I could have went to crappy luxury instead, but, vicious.
Scrappy's a nice guy. I actually like him. So no,
I don't even
no
know if he's
worries. I
streaming.
wouldn't be
I don't even know if he is, to be honest.
Hey, instead you came to a crappier luxury, so I appreciate you, Joe. Basil, you're welcome to whenever you come. It's just something that I'm joking about. It's fine.
Meech, you've thought about this more than I have. What do you think the long-term prospects are of that 39mm Explorer?
Long term, I think it'll actually. Right now, it's kind of desirable, but I don't know. I think if the 36 mil stays on the roster for the next 15 years, I think 39 mil will kind of level out. I won't say it'll tank, but it'll go. You'll see him start to slowly peak underneath the MSRP price of what it was. The 39 mil, for some people it worked, and others it just didn't. And if you're a purist, you'll hate the 39 mil and everything about it. And I think there's more purists out there than there are guys like myself. I think the 39 mil it'll be recognized. It'll still be unique, especially the T-Rex one, but it still won't be as popular as the 36, I believe.
Yeah, that's fair. It struck me that is probably the long-term look at it, because I know there's a lot of people who traded out of their 39s to get the new 36, and that would if that's happening, that tells me everyone that wants a 39 probably has one by now. Basically, I mean, during its production run, it was easy to get, and then now the second prices aren't that bad.
But I mean, that's exactly, we started kind of with that discussion because our friend George Varghese apparently got a code 1159 at a good price point in the secondary market, and he was saying like today's ugly ducklings are tomorrow's beauties, and to a certain extent he's right. And in the same way, right, the fact that it was a limited production run, and that it's no longer produced and probably not coming back in the same way. I'm not saying it will never come back, a 39mm case. That would be very presumptuous to even say something like that. But hey, it's not going to come back.
37 probably. I could see, because Rolex, someone argued Rolex never looks back, right? They never go back in history. They always keep pushing forward. I can see them coming out with 37 mil, and that being the men's size, the new men's size, and then the ladies would be 36 mil. Or, yeah, because I mean, it just makes sense. The Yacht Masters at 37 mil. And technically, the Air King, when they revised the Air King, they didn't go back in time. They went forward with the, slimming it down, balancing out the dial. I think the 39 mil's gone permanently, personally.
Permanently?
Yeah, I think I really disagree with ugly ducklings are always good, basically, like anything like that. Like, I think just in general, if it wasn't popular during production, it's extremely difficult for it to get its heyday after its discontinuation, unless it is eventually replaced, like that product lineup turns into something special. And that's really the story of the Daytona.
I think you're reading it too literally in a way. Forget about it becoming beautiful or trendy. The fact that it was not desired means that there's a limited number of them out there, and that will make it collectible for that reason, not necessarily because it becomes more attractive over time. It might, just like the Daytona had actually a second coming, so to speak, that was very different than how desirable it was when it was a hand wound chronograph. Um, that being said, yeah, I think Explorer 39 doesn't even need to become popular simply because it's limited in numbers. It is going to rise in value.
Yeah, but Lloyd, you run into a very interesting conversation. Which 39 becomes the more popular? Does the T-Rex, and I think the T-Rex personally becomes more popular because they had the shortest production run of the 39s. 20, what was it, 2016 to 2018, if I'm remembering the years correctly, before Rolex kind of tossed it out, and then they redid it to where the Mark II came out and had longer hands, and the Mark II went from like 2018 to current, or 2021, right? So then you ask yourself, which one is the more desirable, shortest production run?
Well, the desirable
my money would be
one
on the T-Rex one.
the desirable, again, I think we are kind of going back to Ozzy's point as well. The desirable one is the one that's better designed, so not the T-Rex, but the collectible one certainly is the one that has the short hands, because like you said, it's even more limited compared to the properly sized and proportioned 39 millimeter, which has the hands that actually show the minutes properly.
I think just because there's limited amounts doesn't, like, I don't know if that really helps a lot. Like, for example, there were a lot of meteorite dials in the date and the Daytona in the past, but it was only with the release of the current meteorite Daytona that we're seeing renewed interest in those pieces, which were, retrospectively, maybe they were undervalued.
Yeah, sure. But
So
I mean,
there would have to be a resurgence of 39 millimeter Explorer in the future for the past examples to get traction again.
I don't think that's absolutely necessary, but you are raising a good point, a very relevant one.
But then what would come first, the chicken or the egg type thing? Because the OPs were 39 mil, and they even had a shorter production run, didn't they? In 39 mil, 4 or 5 years max, and then they were discontinued. Now keep in mind, the 39 mil OPs were actually pretty damn good looking. You got the grape dial, you had that rhodium, then you had the a blue with little dots of green around the hour markers. And they were actually really nice, and they were 39 mils, about $5,500. If you could get one at MSRP, they were like that perfect sweet spot, the perfect sample platter for a Rolex. And then Rolex said, "Screw it, we're pushing to 41 mil, we're making it look like a clown just did all of our watches."
I mean, the OP41 is 39 millimeter, so I I don't know what we're
39.8 or whatever. I mean, whatever, what have you. But I mean,
like, what is the difference between an OP39 and an OP41?
I think
I
the
assume there's no
OP39s
difference.
have a smaller dial. The dial's a lot more crushed in, I guess.
Oh, okay.
As we're at the 41s, they look just wider. And the lugs, I hear the lugs are a little bit longer too versus the original 39. It's compact, like a minivan. But yeah, I mean, I just I feel like those would come back. But given that you had some very interesting colors there, and for Rolex to casually toss them out, that's a little bit, I don't know, interesting, I guess. Concerning, maybe.
What was interesting to me is, like, they tossed out all the colors. Okay, fine, but they didn't replace them with anything. So as far as I would be able to tell, like, that line should effectively be dead. But dead compared to what? As far as I know, they delivered, like, to even big ADs, like maybe 1 or 2 examples of every color for the entire production run.
I think the line is dead because it's not serving the purpose it was designed for, right? Because that was the entry level Rolex. So I think they basically made a very quick decision, Aussie, to change tracks a little bit, because if they kept the hype colors, people would continue to go after them, and no matter in what limited numbers, it keeps pulling up the price of the entire Oyster Perpetual range, even the simpler, more classic dial colors. So I think they just wanted to nip that in the bud and try to
Yeah, but
reintegrate Oyster Perpetual as the entry level Rolex, as it should be. It should be the accessible one, not the least accessible one.
yeah, but you gotta look at it from a corporate standpoint. Why would you kill your own cow, so to speak? I mean, if it's raking in more money than a wiped out Daytona,
But it's not
Panda,
raking. It's not raking
you
in
know.
more money for
You mean
Rolex.
if I can get you to buy garbage tutors and jewelry and jump through hoops and make you dance like a monkey for
I don't think that actually happened.
like a Tiffany dial OP.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't
Rolex
I?
doesn't
It's
care
more
for
money.
that.
Yeah.
Rolex,
No,
Rolex
Meech.
doesn't care for that.
No, I don't think that actually happened. I think people who got the OPs were people in like the first few months of their release. Like that's the only ones that were ever delivered, roughly speaking, like majority. And they were so undesirable. They were soft. They were softer than trying to sell someone a date just. I was offered to see the whole lot when they first came in, and I was just someone who bought a sub for the first time. So you go, "Do you want to see all the OPs?" I'm like, "No." That's it. That's all there was to it. So people didn't have to do a lot of. They weren't Daytonas,
Yeah. So I mean, again, you're right. Maybe some authorized dealers, but especially the gray market dealers, have made a handsome and very quick profit on those Oyster Perpetuals, but Rolex didn't benefit from it in any way.
Oh,
Rolex,
please. I'm sure they kicked a good chunk of them out the back door. I mean, you can't
Rolex
convince
doesn't
me
have
at this point that Rolex is, a saint, a
No,
saint
that's not what I'm
cardinal, if so to
saying.
speak.
No,
They're
no,
kicking
no,
shit
no,
out the
no.
back door. You'd be
Joe,
stupid not to.
I know that's your style, but this is not that kind of channel. I know you are not open to nuance, but to say that Rolex doesn't sell watches at a premium during backdoor is not to say Rolex is saint. It's just not their practice. They sell watches through jewelers. So jewelers sell watches through a backdoor. And again, that's not to say they are evil. They're taking advantage of an inflated gray
Right. And
market.
as they should, right? I mean, you never
No,
question
not
where
as
money
they
comes
should.
from.
Not as they should, but I'm not gonna put them on a moral scale because they're making profit.
The reality is like the relationship probably pre-existed these super hypey times back when they had a lot of trouble trying to clear their cases of like the half dozen Hulks that Rolex would send them each month through 2010 through 2016. They had to find a way to get it off out of their hands and collecting dust, right? So I think a lot of them probably did have such relationships prior to the point where we would see it now as detrimental,
Yeah. Yeah, again, I'm not defending Rolex. It's just they don't benefit in any direct way in terms of how their watches trade on the secondary market, and that's not different from any other brand. It's not because Rolex is holier than thou. It's just their model is not predicated at all in owning their own boutiques. So even if there were back deals going on, that doesn't benefit Rolex in any first-hand manner.
How does this, the Rolex dealers selling pre-owned watches? What's going on with that rumor?
I mean, technically, it's already doing it. It's just Rolex officially saying we're doing it.
Okay, so
it might be difficult to understand how it would work, to be honest. From my perspective, where are they going to get their inventory from? Like ultimately,
And what are
That's
they-
what I'm
and what
curious
are they
about. The
going
whole
to do?
idea seems fine, but I don't know where they're going to buy these watches from.
From I think even from watches that were turned into service and never claimed back, they could have a sizable inventory. We are talking about Rolex after
Absolutely.
all.
Absolutely.
I mean, I'm only kidding, but that's part of it. The second thing is, of course, people. Not everyone is a hoarder like most of us here. I think maybe Jay Gray is a little, on a different level than us. But the three of us, we're hoarders. Most people have one nice watch that they keep upgrading, just like they upgrade
Oh,
or update their
So,
cars.
so I'm not
They
saying
trade it
there
in.
aren't people who are selling their Rolex. So, as an example, my AD does do pre-owned. So they have staff there and a manager that manages the pre-owned inventory, and clearly they need to know correct pricing. Who inside the jeweler is supposed to work on Rolex's behalf to source inventory for Rolex SA? I don't understand how that's going to work.
I think it's going to work through the service centers more or less. So anything that comes in that way is going to go back to the service center to be certified a certain way.
Are they going to sell a pre-owned Rolex for more than the list price?
That
of
happens
the new
today.
one?
Yeah, that already happens
yeah.
today.
Like I said, they do it quite openly, and they're fine with telling you. Like,
Yeah. Whenever my
I want
sales
twice the
associate
money.
wants to tell me
Wow.
fuck you to a request, like I say, I'd like a
Wow.
meteorite Daytone, or let's say I want a meteorite Pepsi, and she goes, yes, we've got one in pre-owned right here, $100,000.
But that's the thing
Okay.
also, the cognitive dissonance is precisely this, that Rolex has certain practices that basically allows them to save face, imputing all the blame to authorized dealers, your local jeweler, and whatever else. Whereas if they go through with this program with a certified pre-owned Rolex watch through your authorized dealer scheme, they will have to own up to that discrepancy, right? So they can't have people like me trying to find a nuance in these practices. I will also say, well, they are just as involved anything, and maybe this is their way of precisely taking a bite from that secondary market that has already developed around their watches.
Yeah, I just want to put it to you again, Lord. Like, if they already are paying their own staff to price and sell pre-owned watches, I see no reason to. I don't see any reason why they would provide that inventory to Rolex. If they already manage it themselves, provide an in-house warranty themselves, I have no understanding why they would give up that inventory to Rolex.
Because Rolex will pull the authorization for their dealership.
So you think all the ones that currently do pre-owned, they now have to do Rolex pre-owned and not just their stores pre-owned?
I mean, I'm not saying that. I'm just speculating. I don't.
Okay.
I don't work for the brand. I don't know all the details, but that could be one way.
That to me,
being
that
very
seems like
clear.
the only way is that you threaten to pull their license if they don't do their pre-owned via Rolex. But I could imagine that really hurting, because time is money. You tie up, $70,000 in a Meteorite GMT, and then have Rolex RSC spend months just looking at it before they'll return it for you to make it available for sale. You could imagine in the last 5 months that would be an example of why you would never do that business.
Guys,
Spend
once
5
again,
months.
just to emphasize this, all of this is speculation. We don't know the exact model that they will be going for, if they will have a certified pre-owned program. As Joe said at the very beginning, a lot of Rolex ADs, in fact, basically any Rolex AD that I know, has some sort of pre-owned watch sale program, including Rolex, usually more than one brand. But anyway, so we don't really know how they will go about it. But when you look at the bigger picture, it seems to be a way for Rolex to say, finally, hey, these watches are trending many times over their retail price in the secondary market. We should take a bite out of that as well. So it will be.
I
if
wonder
it
how that
happens,
would work,
it
though.
will be at premium.
So, So
I don't know.
boutiques, whether it be Rolex, Omega, Seiko, grand if you insist, but Seiko, they cannot sell, for the most part, they cannot sell pre-owned, right? So I wonder if boutique gets their fingers, like if they get a sample of being able to do pre-owned or not, or if they just do boutique only, sells pre-owned now, and the ADs don't get to do pre-owned because they're already doing their own pre-owned. I wonder how that.
I think you're going to see, in my opinion, I think the ones that already have their own pre-owned program will probably just do that. There's pre-owned Omega coming out of Omega ADs as well. Mine's one of them.
Right.
But I think the RSC pre-owned makes a lot of sense for all the ADs that don't have their own program. And for them, they might not have the staff and capability to really do any of that, but it would be a way for Rolex to send them inventory that they could sell to customers that they just, as I said, they just don't want to get into that game. But here's RSC taking and being on the hook. So the way it could work for an AD that has never done pre-owned, has no interest in doing pre-owned, Rolex can provide a way of pricing. Maybe the watch has to be sent to RSC and then the customer gets a quote at the end of it. And then RSC sends inventory back that's all RSC certified. And so they get to take on the pre-owned market without any of the expertise, just with like an RSC stamp on the whole process.
Looking at this picture tells me that the acronym of A, Lung, and Sona is ALAS. And alas, I must say, good evening, gentlemen.
Take care, man.
Cheers.
It's nice to have you here.
Well played.
All the best, guys. All the best.
It's actually ALS, which is popularly known as Lou Gehrig's disease, but that's
No.
a very kind way
There's
of
an A
taking
for
it.
the and. It's alas. Come on.
Okay.
Don't sign me out like that.
Take care.
Ciao, ciao.
Bye, man. The reason I pulled that up is because this is one of my favorite complications. I love the digital display, and in this particular one, the Zeitwerk Datum or Zeitwerk date, basically the hours are instantly jumping, the minutes are instantly jumping, and so is the date, basically. So everything goes all at once, and the red transitions into 13, for example, at midnight exactly. And I think it's at once a very modern and contemporary, but also somewhat antiquated way of displaying time. So I like that steampunk aesthetic, the retro futuristic, as you might say. So this is the Zeitwerk date in white gold with a gray dial. Nice little watch. Guys, I actually have not eaten a proper dinner, so I will take your last few words and interventions, and we'll close in just about 5 minutes. Jake Brooks says, perhaps, but you mean to tell me Dallas will have a pre-owned retail store where they sell whoever wants a platinum Daytona at $200K? I have no clue, man. I don't know how they will run the program. Big Meat says Lord needs his TV dinner. And yes, guys, please, if you send a contribution to PayPal or Cash App, it will directly go to tonight's TV dinner for sure. Thomas Broadband says, thanks for the memories. Sorry, I cut you off, I think, Ozzy.
No, no. I love the idea of TV dinner. I've often been in the supermarket and looked at all the bachelor food, and I wish it didn't look as bad as it does. Might be fun just to try one out, but um, unless
Well,
someone could give a recommendation on
and
what
next
the
Some of
time,
them
ultimate
aren't bad.
next time,
tinfoil food.
next time, ask Mike the Snake. He knows all
Like-
about it.
He does. Okay. Not laughing. I love indulging.
Or Jamie
in
Opulence.
the
Jamie
lower
Opulence
class food.
gets
I'm
those
good.
meal
I'm good.
plans sent to him every like month. He gets like a meal plan sent to
Isn't that Meals on Wheels? Is that
him.
not like a
Well,
charity thing?
technically it is, but it's like it gives them like nutritious meals, quote unquote. Hey, it works for him, I guess. I mean, he claims to have lost weight, and he looks like he lost weight. I mean, but I
Like
always
Jenny
get a
Craig
kick
or
out of those
something.
nutrition
Weight
meals.
Watchers.
Yeah, it's like nobody who practices genuine health. Like you always get to see like the Instagram models. They're always eating them and whatnot. It's like no, like you can't convince me like they look that good and they're eating TV dinners every night. No, no, not possible.
But
It's just
it's social media. That's just their sponsors, so they will sell that to you just
Yeah,
as
all-
they
Don't get me
all
wrong.
Texas,
They're every now and then they're okay, but it's just like to make a legit meal plan out of it. No.
JB
Yeah.
says I can make a mean hot pocket, Pop Tarts, and popcorn.
Can you make a hot pocket from scratch? This is
Thomas Broadbent has good suggestions. Chicken pot pie, Mary
Mary
Calendar,
Calendar.
Hungry Man chicken.
Hungry Man chicken. Okay,
Well, maybe
I
not
don't
the
like
Hungry
chicken
Man
pot
chicken. I've
pies,
never
but is Hungry Man chicken a different suggestion, or is it the same one?
Different. It's a different.
Okay,
I think it's a
I'll try
Hungry
the
Man
Hungry
TV
Man chicken
dinner.
one.
The chicken box.
Let me order it right now. Before I forget.
Before you forget, guys.
Yes.
You again. This might be a horologically oriented, watch centric channel, but we have everything, as you have seen. We do sports talk, football, boxing, and anything in between. But also, we take suggestions for TV dinners, and we make suggestions for TV dinners now. It's amazing.
There it is.
isn't cheap, guys. They want $100.
For how many of them? For how many of
Jeez.
them? For what? Three dozen?
8 per case. Okay, all right. This is a real bachelor mode here. This is a popular SKU. People are buying 8 per case.
I would say the Stouffer's lasagna. The Stouffer's lasagna is actually pretty good.
Very nice, guys.
Oh, how about this one? The Hungry Man Selects. Is this an approved purchase?
We need Mike the Snake on for this to give his expertise to do a breakdown of all the TV Man dinners.
Guys, maybe in the next show, in the next pre-show, I will have Mike the Snake as a special guest to break down all the different genres of TV dinners for all of us.
Do you see that guy? I haven't started my Hungry Man journey. I need to buy the case of Hungry Mans before I can get into the select.
Before you can get
Hungry
the good stuff.
Yeah.
Man, I'll sell you some at premium.
Who's the David SW of Hungry Mans?
David SW.
Actually, that would be fun to see. Like Michael Snake power ranks his top 12 TV dinners.
Green Room has to host to structure it so that it's more presentable. But yes, I would tune in.
Like he's sampling it too, like as he's talking about it.
All right, I'm about to faint actually from hunger, so I am signing off, guys. As much as I love talking to you, thank you for your presence and support in the chat, and thank you, Jay Gray, Aussie Expat, and Big Meech for joining me on the panel and helping me dream about my TV dinner that I'm just going to take in about a minute. Guys, don't forget to upvote on your way out. And if you want to support the channel, if you want to help it become self-sustaining, if you want to encourage me in creating original and exclusive content, feel free to consider a PayPal contribution at lordtelespontv@gmail.com, lordtelespontv@gmail.com. And I also have a Cash App at $LHVVV. And if you haven't subscribed yet, do subscribe and help me get that much closer to 1,000 subs. I will see you tomorrow.